Robinson in motion slot. Here's Bryce. Rolling out. Time to heave it deep. Throws it shy of the goal line, and that ball is tipped around.
Wow!
Oh, that's a touchdown!
Wow!
Mountaineers win it! Mountaineers
Wow!
win it! Deflection, are you kidding me?
Wow!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Reese over 100 yards with a chance for an exclamation point! Touchdown, Baylor!
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
L.J. Johnson. Old school I formation. Johnson dives forward. Touchdown. And the Aggies waste no time cashing in the mental mistake.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Duggan looks to throw. Going towards the corner, the end zone, and wide open. Touchdown. Darius Davis. Somehow somebody forgot about Darius Davis. And a touchdown reception at 19 yards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Uyunglele with the handoff. Shipley's going to break free. Across the 10, he's into the end zone for a touchdown. 32 yards. Will Shipley. And punches in 6 for the Tigers.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday, September 20th. Midway or just past the midway point of the first full weekend or first full month of college football. A couple of notes to get to. In studio today, Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left, also Emery, Levi, Jacob. Emery's on remote. Jacket also Garrett Ross. Garrett, nice to have you back today. Jacob did a wonderful job while you were out. There's a guy I ran into today when I was walking out of the gym, Bruce Pearson. His father played college football at Baylor in the 1940s. He walked up to me as I was leaving. He said, "Hey, I love the Sikkim radio." And, you know, Bruce Pearson, his father played in the 40s. Great to have Bruce. He watches the 10:30 What We Do Sports Tonight on CW. So I wanted to say his name out from the beginning today. Now, Baylor opened up the week as the favorite at Iowa State in Ames, slightly, like by a point. They're now just under a field goal underdog in Ames. I would think that perhaps the little still unknown or also some of the injuries, or they're playing at Iowa State, and Iowa State's a good football team. And so that's not a surprise to me at all.
No, and look, Iowa State, it's pretty much the difference you get when you've got a home field advantage, you know, in a pick'em game. Like, they're giving them the home field advantage, which is a field goal. And right now, I'm with Vegas. I think Iowa State wins a close game. Look, they almost came down here, and if not for a bad snap at the end of the game, we don't know what happened at the end of that one. And Baylor hasn't shown me yet that they can win in tough environments on the road.
Craig, you mentioned that Iowa State was favored, and we mentioned kind of that home field advantage, but you rarely see a team favored no matter, and then all of a sudden within a day they're not favored. And we'll pick our games and have the predictions, of course, as Paul mentioned, later in the week. And I'm not so sure they didn't get it right if, in fact, it's about a 3 or 4 point favorite.
I mean, respectfully, I don't think we know enough, the three of us, to say what Vegas typically does. Like, I don't know for sure how the odds flip the day after. And you may be right, but I don't know that. So that could be commonplace, you know, the way that goes. I am not surprised. I think anybody who's watched Baylor has every right to have question marks about, you know, where they sit currently and where they sit as far as being able to be a team that can go out on the road and go to a place like Ames, Iowa, and win a game against an Iowa State team that's 3-0 for the first time in a long time, a team that beat Iowa for the first time in Matt Campbell's tenure since he got to Ames in 2016. They've gotten off to a good start, and there's a lot of belief there. And, you know, Hunter Deckers looks like he's going to be the real deal, and their defense is really nasty, and they've got some playmakers like Xavier Hutchinson. And Baylor's got A Blake Shapin who's not quite as good as people expected him to be just yet, and certainly not as good as he was when people first learned his name last year. A defense that is still pretty good, but offensively, a line that doesn't appear to be quite what it was touted to be right out of the gates, and a severe lack of skill players. So as far as proven guys go, they don't have an Xavier Hutchinson on this roster. They have a few guys that they think can eventually be that guy or be similar to that, but I think they're still in search of playmakers outside of a Squirrel. And like, look, even Richard Reese, that was based off last week? I mean, and nothing else. Mm-hmm. So, I think Iowa State's got some bullets, and they've got home field advantage, and they've got some confidence, and they've got a 3-0 record. And Baylor, lost some of their luster in that BYU win when BYU turned around and got absolutely destroyed by Oregon. So I just think all those things add up. And, probably, to some extent the injuries, the fact that what playmakers Baylor does seem to have, a couple of those guys may not be available. So, I totally understand why Iowa State's the favorite being at home. I don't think that they're overwhelming favorites by any means. If that line were to get up to 10, then I would be like, okay, what the heck is going on behind the scenes? But I think that's a fair, slight margin of victory or expectation for the home team.
All right, so that's that. And again, there's other games, but I just Philip in Vegas watching that line, he showed that to me earlier. I think it might have been even late last night. Now, this story, Brett McMurphy, not surprised by this. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State started playing back in 1914. They have played 108 times. They're going to play at least 109, maybe 10 or 11. We don't know. Who knows? They almost played twice last year, just shy of playing a repeat game for the Big 12 title. But Bedlam series between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State is done when Oklahoma joins the SEC. AD's told Action Network headquarters Bedlam series is latest iconic rivalry destroyed by conference realignment. Which of all of the rivalries that do you remember? You hear about A&M in Texas, Oklahoma and Nebraska, and they played last year and they played last weekend. Kansas, Missouri, I'm talking long term. Which of the rivalries, which is the one we've lost? All of them I hate that have ended. Which is the one that you think has been the most painful?
Well, the one that's the most talked about in our neck of the woods has been A&M in Texas, and that one's coming back, so we don't even really mention it. But it has for this state. I mean, it was a Thanksgiving Day or the day after for almost 100 years that rivalry was there, and it was a great rivalry at times, but it was mostly lopsided until about 1984. So,
as is Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, so
they're like 80 wins, 21 losses for Oklahoma. A lot of them are all lopsided.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes, and it stinks that you don't have those rivalries, but all of them have been that neck and neck, as people think. Most of it's kind of nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, but it does suck. It does suck that their interstate rivalries don't get to be played.
I mean, I guess Texas and Texas A&M, I guess. I mean, that's the one that we've been without for the longest, and you can't really say Bedlam now because it's not over yet. So, I mean, I don't think if you were born past 1985, I don't think you care about Nebraska, Oklahoma. I mean, that's one that we romanticize about the greatest game ever played. And it's when was that? It was in the 1970s. So, how relevant is that really to what we're talking about? So I think that's old school romanticizing. And, I mean, did it really register beyond Nebraska and Oklahoma's older fans that this past weekend?
It didn't even register with me.
Yeah,
and I'm an older fan.
I know how great it was, but that was a long time ago at this point.
Well, they had the win that Oklahoma 22 years ago, 2020 maybe they played for a Big Ten title in 2008 or whatever it was, or 2010. But the last time they played with a lot on the line, would have been 2001. When Crouch caught the flea flicker, and the year before Oklahoma beat them on their way to winning the national title. That's been 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. There's been some moments, but Texas basically maneuvered their way into being the top rival of Oklahoma a long time ago.
Yeah, and part of that was even before the Big 12 did it, but the Big 12, even when they were in conference, kind of castrated that rivalry by having this stupid scheduling format that took out one of your best TV games. So, that one... The Big 12 kind of did
the Big 12 killed Oklahoma and Nebraska as a rivalry.
Yeah, they did kind of the heavy lifting.
For the sake of OU Texas, basically. Yeah.
They did the heavy lifting beforehand.
They didn't have to, though. They could have done what the SEC has done and other conferences have done to keep specific rivalries intact, even if it would have been one-sided one way or the other initially.
And so now we end up in the Big 12 that we're in, where all those seeds of doubt and all those bad feelings were sown a long time ago in the very beginning days of this conference. It's almost like it was doomed to begin with, right? And now none of those teams are going to be in this conference now. None of those teams that were involved in that. So I think Nebraska-Oklahoma is a great historical rivalry. I don't know how much we'll miss it, though. So, yeah, I guess A&M and Texas, and I wonder to what extent that's been really just romanticized by the fact that I live here, and every November it's tradition to talk about it. But it's from an A&M and Texas perspective, and I don't know outside of that how many people really care about that game.
Only because it was one of the games always on Thanksgiving Day.
I get. I'm not knocking the tradition or anything. I'm just saying that, like, outside of those fan bases, I don't know how many people cared about it.
Dolfo on the chat, Craig. Most people outside of Texas don't care much about A&M and Texas.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And just to tell you, it didn't even occur to me until I was older how lopsided it was because, again, things that happened 25 years before you're alive.
Most of those series are.
But I have a memory very specifically in like 88 or 89, my dad and I went to a game at DKR where A&M beat Texas. And it was the 4th or 5th year in a row they'd done it. And driving back, he is an A&M student in the 60s, couldn't have even imagined beating them one time in a row.
Yeah.
That's how lopsided it was. So, it's 100 years, but the first 70 of it, like A&M would win 1 or 2 in a row, and they would have a parade.
Texas, Arkansas. Texas, 56 wins to 23. Oklahoma has like 80 wins compared to Oklahoma State's 21 or so and a few ties in between. Most of the rivalries are very one-sided. Oklahoma and Nebraska, I think now, it got to be pretty tight, but that one's now, of course, leaning towards the Sooners.
So, I mean, the whole point of talking about this was to go to Bedlam, and that one will be, that'll be something that I'm sure the fans in Oklahoma will be, sorely missed for both sides there. Maybe Oklahoma State more than Oklahoma. They can correct me in the chat if they want to. I don't sense a real love loss from the Oklahoma side of things, because every response that I've seen to any sort of debate about this has, been a chant of SEC or whatever, which I get that they're going to be playing new teams in new locations, and so they don't feel the need to have to play little brother or whatever, how they want to refer to it. But for Oklahoma State fans, I'm sure there's probably kind of like, the Texas schools where, you'd like to play Texas still. You'd have liked to have played A&M over the last few years, but ultimately you're not going to cry over spilt milk either, and you got to go about your business. And I'm sure Oklahoma State will do the same thing, and I'm sure, much like A&M and Texas, maybe not, meeting up again one day when they're both in the same conference, but I'm sure that Bedlam will renew at some point. There's no doubt just how long it takes to get there. Hopefully the Oklahoman writers aren't having to, for 20 years, write an annual Thanksgiving piece about the game that we lost. And, that tradition, hopefully it doesn't take that long to reignite it, but it still sucks.
Yeah. UT leads that series with A&M 76, 37, and 5, double the wins. Again, there's another one that's 118. There'll be 119. Most likely no sooner, maybe in a year or two, but 2025.
Okay, another thing's going to happen. So Oklahoma is 90, 19, and 7 in Bedlam. So another thing's going to happen, and I'll use an example here in Waco because that's where we are. So there were a lot of people, even when the Big 12 was saved here, up in arms because A&M and Nebraska had left the conference, and particularly mad at A&M. Now, in my lifetime, my personal lifetime, Baylor has beaten A&M and tied them once. So over that point, which was, 10 or 11 years ago, in 31 or 2 years of my life, A&M had 27 or 8 wins in the series of that. And then after A&M left the conference, guess what happened? Baylor won it. So teams that are like Nebraska and A&M were gone, teams that they never beat, and then all of a sudden, guess what you can do? You can win the league more. Baylor won it 3 times after that happened. So you can lament the loss of rivalries, but if those rivalries have been punching you in the nuts the whole time, then maybe it's not such a bad thing.
Would have made it even more sweet, though, if you could have punched them in the nuts and won the Big 12 title along the way. Well, a couple of you have put up Michigan, Ohio State. That's not even a part of the conversation. That's an incredible long. That'll never end. Of course, we never thought some other ones would end. We're discussing rivalries that ended, that were long-term, that were really, really good, bitter or not, one-sided or not, but they are now out the window. And the reason we brought it up, as Craig went back and rewind, is that Oklahoma State appears as if they won't play anytime soon, whenever that is that Oklahoma leaves the Big 12. Chris, losing rivalries and regional partners is bad for fans and bad for football. Bedlam is just the latest rivalry to suffer from business decisions.
I don't know, man. That Michigan State-Washington, that was rivalries, new Big Ten rivalry all over it. No, I mean, all seriousness, that's basically what we're going to get now. We'll remain to be seen on whether Washington's a Big Ten team in the near future or not. It sure seems like that feels like that's going to happen, but we got a little taste of it there, with that game this past weekend. And I don't know how – I know Washington enjoyed it being at home. I'm not sure how much Michigan enjoyed it, but that's going to go from a non-con type of game to similar to a conference game, if not a full-blown conference game. And so there will be, new rivalries created, I'm sure. But, yeah, the geography part of that and just the history part of that, whether it was lopsided or not, I think is, certainly a tough pill to swallow for a lot of fans who love the history of college football. College football leaders have basically, said that they don't care too much about history outside of Ohio State, Michigan, and Oklahoma, Texas, and the biggest games with the most eyeballs. And, business-wise, you can't really argue against that. But tradition-wise, certainly it's not great for just your typical college football fan. But that's the direction that it's headed. And for those that don't like it, if they stop watching enough in enough numbers, then maybe that causes those in charge to eventually have to, pivot a little bit. But until they see a reason to, they're not going to.
John Baptist, he goes, I disagree. I never lived in Texas or don't live in Texas. I love that Texas and A&M game. I think there's also some, I guess, around the holidays, Thanksgiving, that was a game. You had the OU-Nebraska game that used to always be on Thanksgiving the day after or during that time. USC, UCLA. There are some you say, well, they'll never not play. And then again, we said that before. So that's that with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And there's always as well one of those two teams that probably wants that rivalry to continue because it would be beneficial if you beat them in Oklahoma, even if you don't do it very often, because when you do, it makes you feel even better, and you could use that in helping yourself with recruiting, even if it's 91-20 and whatever is overall in the series.
I do think it sucks for the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that really stinks that you're not going to play the game between the two biggest schools in your state. And it's not like you're some massive state where you've got 6 or 7 schools like in Texas that all have some form of a rivalry over the years. I mean, this is Oklahoma State. That's it. And I mean, I don't know. I would seem to think that, that means something, even if one team wins it more often than not, but I guess not enough to continue it. But I think that's a loss for the state of Oklahoma. And I'm sure, Georgia coming in every, few years will, make Oklahoma fans forget about that. And Tennessee and, all these other schools, and they'll still play Texas and they'll get to play A&M again. But yeah, the traditionalist in me doesn't like that the state of Oklahoma itself is losing its 2 biggest schools, yearly dance, even if the Sooners did dominate that.
Our guest lineup today includes us checking in Steven Johnson from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram on TCU. They're about to play SMU. Olin Buchanan, Texags on the Aggies and where they are as they have come off the win against Miami. Mac Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics at 420. And also Craig's off the radar, former Baylor quarterback and now color analyst for Baylor Radio, J.J. Joe at just after 5. John McClain, Hall of Fame writer. And his columnist on NFL thoughts and much more, and then Paul Catalina's Top 5. Don't forget at 10:30 every night on the CW channel in the local area, Central Texas. It's Sports Tonight with what we do here on Sikkim 365 Radio and also Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. Now, here is a note. This was from Brett McMurphy, but it's actually because of an interview that George Kliavkoff, Pac-12 commissioner, had an interview with or was on with John Wellner and John Canzano. And here's McMurphy's take on it. He told the two, we are sure UCLA is better off financially by staying in the Pac-12 than joining the Big Ten. Said UCLA's travel cost will offset differences in media rights, which is one reason the Big Ten will add more from the Pac-12. So McMurphy taking what Kliavkoff said and saying, okay, maybe he's right, but then that's also why a couple of other teams in the Pac-12 might still be on the table.
I have a ton of questions about this comment for George Kliavkoff. One, if UCLA is so ripe in financial possibilities in the Pac-12, why are they so deep in the hole in debt? If their football draw is not good right now, and they think it might get better by playing teams like Ohio State and Michigan occasionally coming into the Rose Bowl, as opposed to when they have, a busload of a few guys that came to the game this weekend against South Alabama, and Oregon State that's not packing that thing. And, of course, the Rose Bowl is a tough stadium to fill. It's gigantic. But if all those things are going on, and why is USC not included in the travel cost? They have the same exact distance to go. So I don't understand why it's better for UCLA and not USC to do this, considering UCLA is in debt, and they've been building up that debt while being a member of that conference.
UCLA is a state school. We've also been told, Tony Altomore has told us before, that they don't use any state funds. They pretty much do all their own with what they have, although, again, they've struggled to keep up with the bottom line, and that's also why it's enticing to go get $65 or $75 million a year with the upcoming connection to the Big Ten.
Can I see that tweet again? Can you pull that back up? I didn't understand the last part of that.
What he was saying is that if, in fact, the travel costs are so steep, that's why the Big Ten, to help them, you would think, is what he's insinuating, would add a couple of more. And again, this been
so
Brett
McMurphy's saying, here's the Pac-12 commissioner saying why they're going to be better off, but here's why they really aren't, and he's full of it. Yeah, basically. Okay, now I get it.
It's been kind of fun. Not fun. It's been enjoyable for me that there really hasn't been much other than a spattering of a couple of notes about whatever might happen with realignment and whatever is the future of anybody, because the football games, for the most part, have taken control, and the college football playoff expansion. And that news 2 or 3 weeks ago has kind of slowed the roll of everything along the way.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of stuff that's probably going on behind the scenes in terms of, Washington, Oregon, whoever may be trying to, make a move still at this point. I mean, certainly there's nothing publicly that's been leaking out, like you said, since the games have been coming out. But, outside of a real declaration, I'm not sure what that would be. I mean, we know they've talked. We know they're talking. We know that that's not stopped. It's just that the whole public proclamations, once the Big Ten got their network deal, that stopped. That's what we were all waiting on to see. Okay, is Oregon and Washington built into this? Is Notre Dame making a jump? Like, remember all those questions we had about a month and a half ago? Well, all those got answered when the Big Ten signed their deal, and everything just kind of stayed pat, and the season began. But I don't for one second believe that Oregon reps and Washington reps aren't still having their conversations, and whoever else is being talked to behind the scenes. I'm sure there are others, whether it's legitimate that they could ever make a move or not. I'm sure there's at least conversations taking place, because I sure don't feel like we're standing on solid ground all the way just yet, not by a long shot. So, yeah, it's been nice to have football kind of curtail a little bit of that, but it's still very much a hot topic, and I know there are lots of people that are still, very intrigued by the idea of where all the chips are going to fall, and, I see a few people that were wondering if, like, this weekend's results, like Washington winning, like, maybe increases their Big Ten chances. I don't know, like, something as individual as that, and I don't think that if you're the Big Ten, you're like, I'm not sure if we want Washington. Oh my gosh, they just destroyed Michigan State. Now we're going to invite them. I think there's a bit more to it than that. Yeah. And that would be kind of just a flimsy reason to invite them. But yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's just quieted down a little bit, but it sure seems like, just give it a couple weeks and it'll start percolating again.
West blanket. Hey, ask Oklahoma who won last year. Yep, Oklahoma State did win, and that 90-19 or whatever is still there. It's like Texas A&M can beat Texas, but the most recent one is the one that counts, including whatever they do, whether they play once or twice also this year. From Phil, when the lines are posted, the wise guys for major players bet the max, which you can wager $5,000 for college football, $10,000 for NFL. So bettors were laying down large bets on ISU. It caused the line to flip 4 points. And that's from somebody that's there in the middle of all that, as some of you have also described in the chat room today. Timothy Vermeer, future of the Big Ten, 20 teams, 4 divisions of 5 schools, and he got that little, not sure, we don't know. So those are some of the reactions to the story about Oklahoma State. That series will continue for possibly 3 more years, but then after that, it appears as it's out the window. Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award winner, former Lufkin High School star, Jalen Polk, who we brought up with Softy yesterday covering Washington, has been named this week's Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award winner for his spectacular game in their win against Michigan State.
Yeah, he had a great game. Washington just as a whole played a great game. Michael Penix has made a world of difference. They've got a really good defense. They've got some playmakers on offense, and Polk is one of them. And he certainly helped put on a show against Sparty. I was surprised. Mel Tucker seemed like he was kind of reeling without answers after that one. Said the typical coach speak of got to go back and watch the film. But I think problematic is they couldn't get their run game going, and also defensively they weren't able to limit Washington. So it'll be interesting to see how Michigan State now goes back to the drawing board and figures out what they need to figure out. But that big statement win by Washington, and the Pac-12, to its credit, they've got some talk really sizzling right now thanks to USC. We knew that was going to happen, but now you see it in full effect, the Lincoln Riley effect that is, and now you see Oregon with the big win over BYU, and you see Washington with the big win this past weekend over Sparty, and then there's some fun ball being played up at Oregon State and Wazoo to a lesser extent. So yeah, the Pac-12's got some things rolling, and on the opposite end, there's your Colorados, and that. But I think the top of the Pac-12 is really intriguing, and that's going to be a fun race.
From Scott Sherabino, one more note about rivalries. Only in college football is the customer, the fan, never right. According to the powers that be, rivalry is the blood of the sport. All right, we got a break. We come back with Steven Johnson. He covers TCU. Then Owen Buchanan on Texas A&M after their rocky week, and then the win Saturday night against Miami. Look forward to hearing from Mac Rhoades. Big 12 has a new football operations director, or I'm not sure if that's yet been official, but we'll discuss that with him and more. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. September 27th, I go into Stonewood Dental and get crowns put in. It has been a long process, and I can't wait. Dr. Steve Childress started to tell me, and man, it's been years, a long time ago, David, you're going to have to get this done. You have some issues. And yes, that's my fault, or anyone's fault usually, when dental issues eventually pop up, whether you have to lose a tooth, have one pulled, or you have a root canal, or whatever cavity. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas is amazing. They have an incredible business. There's a lot of people that go in there and a lot of people that come out, and they're always smiling better, no matter what may have happened, because they've made progress towards making their smile better, like I am close to doing. Tooth pulled, implants, I've had the shades now, looked at whatever color it's going to be, and then the impressions, and coming up, eventually, a couple of new crowns in the front right part of my mouth and smile, and I cannot wait. Dr. Steve Childress, and they do more than that, of course, just regular teeth cleaning and whatever else you need. Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Stephen Johnson covers TCU, SMU, the Frogs, and the Ponies. Stephen Johnson, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, joins us on 365 Sports. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. This rivalry, you know, I don't know about turf war, but this thing's gotten nasty over the last couple of years. I know you're new to it. Has it been kind of a more calm week with Dykes now at TCU and Lashley at SMU?
I don't necessarily think so. We had the bye week last week, so it's kind of chill here around Fort Worth. But at the start of this week, just kind of seeing some of the chat I've been seeing on social media, I can tell Saturday's going to be very emotional. Even the mayor of Dallas required to tweet of mine saying he sees it at Fort Worth versus Dallas. So I think the emotion will be maybe higher than usual. SMU's won 2 in a row. Tony Dykes is at TCU now. He brought over an offensive lineman with him and most of that coaching staff. So there are just so many storylines, man. I think it's going to be an intense one Saturday.
Will Garrett Morris, the son of a former SMU coach, start? Chandler Morris?
No, he's been ruled out. He suffered a sprained knee against Colorado in that second half in the season opener. So Sonny Dykes confirmed he'll be out. So it'll be Max Duggan once again leading the offense again on Saturday.
So, Stephen, what have you seen from Max Duggan in the snaps that he's received?
Well, like, the competition hasn't been great. Right. Tarleton's obviously FCS. Colorado, they might be the worst team in the country, man. But he's looked good, man. I think some stats from PFL, Pro Football Focus, show he's been one of the leading Power 5 quarterbacks just in terms of his efficiency, especially down the field. So, I mean, it looks like he's comfortable in this offense. I think TCU has a bit of a luxury saying, hey, your quote-unquote backup quarterback is a guy that started 30-plus games, or 30 games, that is. So he's looked good, but obviously the challenge, the difficulty is about to be ratcheted up because this will be TCU's first real test. So I think TCU's still in a good spot, but I'm curious to see how they do when they're playing the team with kind of similar talent level now.
Yeah, and they have been able to cruise, and Colorado is struggling. Tarleton State, that's not a surprise with the score right there. So how are the others around TCU, the playmakers, whether it's Trevius Hodges, Tomlinson, Johnston? How are they? Are they all doing what they're supposed to do, even though they've played really a weak schedule so far?
The only person, well, I think the running game has been looking pretty good. Like so far, you've gotten a little bit of everything from really the top 3 running backs: Kendre Miller, Maury, Imani Baylor, the guy they brought over from Louisiana over the summer, had a big run in the second half against Tarleton. So them on the offensive line have looked good. I would say, I think you would hope that Saturday is going to be that breakout game for Quentin Johnson. I think he only has maybe 40 yards combined so far. And look, he only played a series or 2 against Tarleton. The Colorado game was a little bit wacky because Chandler got hurt and then they were running the ball so well. So I think Saturday is a great opportunity. They're going to need a lot more than just 3 catches and 20 yards from Quentin Johnson Saturday. But defensively, they've been looking great. Competition hasn't been all that either, but Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, I think right now is graded as a top 10 corner by Pro Football Focus. They've only given up a couple points. So everybody has been looking good so far, but like I just said, they play Colorado and Tarleton, so they should be looking good. So I would say everybody's kind of doing what's expected of them, but now they'll have a chance to really prove something on Saturday.
How much of an advantage do you think it is that this coaching staff knows the roster across the way so well?
I think it certainly helps. Publicly, Sonny and everybody's saying the right things like, hey, we know the personnel. Hey, they know our scheme. They think they'll kind of cancel out. But I just think the fact that you know the tendencies, the weaknesses of guys like Tanner Mordecai or Rashid Rice, who's leading the country in receiving yards, Elijah Chapman defensively. I just think the fact that you know those guys, both who they are as people and who they are as players, I have a hard time seeing that not being some type of advantage TCU can take advantage of. So will it be the deciding factor in the game? I don't know, but I think it definitely helps TCU from a preparation standpoint, knowing that not only do we got the head coach, he's brought over his OC, his O-line coach, and even one of the best linemen from the program last year. So I think it will help. But if they're going to win, it's going to be about what they end up doing, what they end up executing, not necessarily the fact that they kind of have that insider knowledge in my mind.
Stephen, what has Sonny Dykes said about, facing his old team? I mean, obviously he's at the kind of the center of this whole thing. I'm sure he's been cordial and respectful, but has there been really anything on his end that's added any spice or any sort of intrigue to this contest?
Not at all. He's avoided, I think, anything controversial, anything like that. This morning he told us he expects to be booed, and he told us, hey, if I bought a ticket to the game, I would boo me too. So in a way, I honestly think he's going to enjoy that environment. Like, he's expecting the boos. He's not expecting to get a standing ovation or anything like that. So while he hasn't added to the fire, I think he's ready to bring his troops into the fire and see what type of atmosphere they have at Ford Stadium. This will be my first football game there, so I'm curious to see how the environment ends up looking. Are there going to be a lot of TCU people there? Is SMU going to kind of sell it out? So I think we're all ready to see what the atmosphere is like on Saturday.
Duggan is a guy that can hurt you with his feet as much as he can with his arm. Is with Sonny Dykes, do they still want him to be multi-dimensional, dual threat?
I think absolutely. I think the quarterback run game, especially with Chandler being out, is going to be a kind of like a bigger emphasis for this offense now. I'm not sure how long Chandler will be out, but Max is one of those guys, man. He's one of those players. Have you heard of the players that they need to get hit once or twice during the game, and it kind of really gets them going? Max is one of those guys, and I just think the fact that he brings so much value as a runner, whether it's scrambling or in a quarterback run game, it's only going to help TCU in this game, especially because Maryland, they had a lot of success running the ball, running those RPO actions with Tua's little brother. They ended up able to win that game. So I think that will help out TCU, knowing Max is a dual threat and knowing Max can hurt them with both his arm and his legs.
How big are the returns in your mind of Bud Clark and Marcel Brooks on defense?
Well, Bud Clark's going to be huge. Like I said, Abe Kamara has filled and found the free safety spot. Obviously, like you said, and keep saying that. Yeah, that's against Colorado and Tarleton, but when you're going against one like a pass-happy offense that has one of the best receivers in the country, you want your secondary to be fully loaded, fully healthy. He hasn't played at all. He was one of those guys that was having a really strong camp. Honestly, the last practice we saw him, he had a pick six, and then he was injured the next day. So I know they're excited about his potential return. Marcel Brooks is going to be a game-time decision, but right now they just need bodies at the linebacker position. So I think that's definitely going to help them as well, too. He's a former five-star kid. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you accidentally.
Yeah, he's a former five-star kid. For the first time, they really feel like He was committed to the weight room. He looks like he's about 200, 205 to 210 now. So if he's back, it's only going to help the team because if they have any more significant injuries at linebacker, they're going to start moving some pieces around.
Henry Miller, I was going to bring him up. What a great story. He came from a little 2A school, Mount Enterprise, overlooked. That's one of the things that Patterson and TCU has to do. Baylor has to do that. Among other schools, you got to find those diamonds in the rough that sometimes are at very, very small schools. He has been fantastic for TCU. And have you had a chance to visit with him very much?
Yeah, we talked to him a couple of times. We have a chance to really talk with everybody. And I think he does have a great story. I think coming over from Memphis, I was aware of Zach Evans. He was a 5-star kid, went to the big school, state champion at North Shore. But when I started digging into the stats, I was like, this Miller kid almost produced the exact same numbers as he did, even after he left or was shut down or whatever happened. So I do think he's a great story. He's RB1. He's kind of the leader of that room. He's a big, strong kid, but I think he has some really good speed as well to it. So I think he's a bit of the complete package. So he's been a joy to cover so far, man, and it'll be really interesting to see. They've been rotating him out these first 2 games, but I think this will be maybe one of those games where you see Miller get up to maybe 20 or so carries.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Great to have you on. Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers TCU, came in over the summer, and now covers the Frogs. SMU and TCU coming up this weekend. When we come back, A&M got through a tumultuous week and won Saturday night, made some decisions even earlier that day about some of the freshmen who have been bad boys. And where are they now as they move forward? And, of course, with what Max Johnson did at quarterback. Olin Buchanan next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I have been engaged now for 2 months, and 2 wonderful, glorious months. And the first thing you got to do when you get engaged is you got to get a ring. I don't know anything about wedding rings. Less than nothing. Seriously, I'm in the negative when it comes to that. I just know that they exist. So I needed help, and so I went to go see our good friend Brad at Boozer's Jewelers and said, look, I got to get a ring, and I'm getting engaged in about 6 weeks or so from then. And maybe 7. And he said, okay, well, what kind of ring do you want? I said, well, fortunately, Amanda has sent me kind of a bunch of different Instagram posts of things that she kind of likes or rings that she likes. So I showed them that, and they said, look, we can make one kind of like this, but it's totally unique to you. 9 out of 10 of the rings that they do are special orders, are individual jobs, because you have a one-of-a-kind fiance and you need a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what they can do at Boozer's. The whole thing took about 3 weeks, and then I had to hide the ring for about 15 days before we went to Hawaii to get engaged, but everything else was great. The process was simple. The process was great when it came to financing, design, all of that involved every step of the way. They took over and they helped me through the woods of buying an engagement ring. So your one-of-a-kind fiance can get a one-of-a-kind ring at the Wedding Ring Store, Boozer's on Valley Mills Drive.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service. Where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Quite a week at College Station after the loss to Appalachian State. Of course, even before they played Miami, suspensions of some high-level ranked freshmen, and then the big win against Miami with Max Johnson, Olin Buchanan. Olin, how would you put that week into perspective in College Station?
The whole week, oh my goodness. Talk about just polar swings, like a bipolar, like a bipolar fan base. You're about as down as you can get after the loss to Appalachian State. People were panicking and upset, disgusted, all those things, and they should have been. They had a right to be. You have more to expect than that in the 5th year under Jimbo Fisher. But then, when you had 4 players have to be suspended because they broke curfew to go to a party, then you're starting to wonder, hey, where is this team at? Do they even care about what's going on here? And then they come out and just have a really good, strong show of intestinal fortitude in a game against the number 13 ranked team, and they go win. And then I think that you have a fan base that wants to get excited about this team, but they're a little bit apprehensive right now.
And history, is a hard thing to shake. Olin, you know this. And it's kind of a hard thing to break habits for Jimbo Fisher. He did say last week that changing everything is on the table, including him actually hiring a play caller for the first time in his life. Do you think, and I don't think it's going to happen this year unless things got really bad, but do you think that's in the offing in the offseason?
No. I just think that Jimbo Fisher feels like that his system works and that the play calling is not the issue. He believes it's the execution. And quite frankly, in some of the plays the other night, there were plays to be made there. And a guy would miss a block or, a guy would drop a pass. Even Devon Achane dropped what could have been a touchdown pass. So I'm not sure if he wouldn't be benefited by somebody else calling the plays and him just managing everything else that a head coach has to deal with. But when, if he wants to make that argument that it's about execution, and then when you break down the film, you say, well, at least to some degree, he's right. Then the next question is, well, why aren't you executing?
Olin, what were your impressions of Haynes King and then subsequently your impressions of Max Johnson? Was there much of a difference in your mind when all was said and done?
Yeah, actually, I thought the problem with Haynes was he was a little indecisive. Sometimes you didn't know if he wanted to run the football or not. If he was decisive against Appalachian State, he took off, had a 31-yard run, and they scored on a touchdown a couple plays later. A lot of other times, you see the protection breaking down around him, and he looked like he didn't know what he wanted to do, and then he decided to run, but he decided too late. He could either sack or like a 2-yard gain. I think that he was really an enigma because he has a strong arm. I saw it on a pass he overthrew against Appalachian State late in the game to Chris Marshall. He threw it 50 yards in the air. And yet, I can count 4 or 5 times when he had open receivers and he skipped the ball to it he threw 5 yards short and the ball skipped to the guy. And so you're thinking, what's going on? They had a chance to pull out the win over Appalachian State, and he had Anaya Smith open on a slant, threw it 2 yards behind him. On second down, on third down, he had Keith Brown wide open on the sideline in front of A&M's bench. And he threw it so short that Keith had to leave his feet just to catch it. So what could have been a first down, maybe a touchdown, was a 5-yard gain, and they missed the field goal to try to tie it on the next play. So it's not that he's without ability. That's not the issue. But I think he's just been indecisive. Maybe the game's still moving too fast for him. But some of those short passes are kind of alarming.
Olin, the freshmen who were suspended because they wanted to be freshmen, and also knuckleheads that you have at times. Players do this. If you don't take care of that immediately, that could become even worse. How much does it help that they won the game without him?
Well, a huge. In fact, Jimbo was asked about whether or not, especially the two receivers, if they had been present, what boost would have given the offense? And his answer was none. That our problem wasn't with the receivers; it was with protection. Well, some of that's true, but I'm not 100% true believing that. Evan Stewart had made a positive impact on this team, and they could have used a guy with his speed to try to loosen up that Miami defense. It was just, to me, just daring A&M to throw deep, and A&M couldn't. So they could have helped. But, the fact that you were still able to go out and win that football game against a good team without two guys that could help you, number one, first, it's good for you. It's good for as a team that you did that, obviously. But number two, maybe it sends another subtle message to those guys. Not that they need it. From what I understand, the rest of the team made it very clear to them that forgiveness can be warranted, but don't make this mistake again.
Olin, how bad do you think Jimbo needs to win these next two before they get to the tilt with Alabama on October 8th?
Well, I think he needs to really bad. I've said before that you're in the 5th year under this guy who's been recruiting at a very high level. They've got a pretty good defense, not as good as it should be. Linebacker play kind of suspect, but a good defense. And you're not winning because of the offense that you're in charge of. And I said before the season, anything less than 10 wins should be considered a disappointment. And when you lose that game to Appalachian State, one that you would have circled as a win, that makes that 10-win plateau very, I don't want to say unlikely, but very difficult to reach, even more difficult than it normally would. So Arkansas looks like the best team in the SEC West other than Alabama and Mississippi State. Starkville has been a major problem going there for A&M with good teams against bad Mississippi State teams. I don't think this is a bad Mississippi State team. So if you want to be involved in the in the championship race in the West Division, and obviously A&M does, you have to win these two games. You can't get you can't be down 2 games to Alabama, going there and thinking you're going to have a chance to be a contender in the race. So these are very important games, and yet games that you're going to have to play infinitely better than you've shown so far to be able to win.
What's been the biggest surprise in a good way, and what's been the biggest surprise in a bad way?
Okay, well, the biggest surprise in a good way, let me think on that, because we expected so much from them.
Yeah.
So I guess when you consider how Evan Stewart, we thought he'd be good, that he'd made a good impact. Bryce Anderson, as a freshman, came in and played really well at a time of need last week when they had a couple of guys out and then a couple of starters ejected for targeting. So that was kind of a surprise. I think the biggest surprise from a negative aspect is probably that maybe the run defense. I thought they would be a lot better against the run, and their linebacker play has really let them down. And beyond that, I guess we really thought we'd see more out of Haynes than we did.
Yeah, and the offense, it's like a struggle, isn't it? It's a struggle. They're not running the ball great. They're not always giving protection, and you have some issues already, and then it just seems like they've got to figure that out. Do you think they will?
I think the offensive line will get better with each game because, frankly, they have so many guys that are first-year players, and they've got Bryce Foster came back last week from mono, and they got better with him. But they've got a long way to go. I think Trey Zoom, their redshirt freshman left tackle, I thought he played his best game against Miami. But is that going to be good enough to beat good SEC teams? All their problems, I believe, starts with their offensive line issues, and they've just got to get better. Even the guys that you feel like were proven and playing well before this year, Layden Robinson, Reuben Fothery, they've had some busts that you just can't have, and they've had a bit big, that took away opportunities to have big plays. So, everybody up front's got to play better, and maybe that's one of the reasons Haynes was struggling, because he wasn't trusting his offensive line.
All right. It was a stressful week. It ended better than it absolutely started because of the loss to App State, but the nice win against Miami. Olin Buchanan, thank you, sir. TexAgs.com with us on Texas A&M. When we come back, we'll have Mac Rhoades in about 20 minutes, Baylor's Director of Athletics. Craig's off the radar in 45 minutes or so. And we'll go back to a little bit more of what George Kliavkoff was talking about when it comes to the Pac-12, some of the reaction to it, including yours. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Penix fires. Touchdown, Polk.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Cheeto Miko and Beer Smoker 4444 are throwing big words into the chat room. Paul, how do you, or either one of you, because you're both very, very intelligent, how do you say this word right there? Diaphanous?
Yes, there you go.
I've never heard that word. What does it mean? Characterized by such fineness or texture as to permit seeing through. Like silky?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. He used the word diaphanous in the chat room as a way above my pay grade, but it's good to see that. Then Beer Smoker said flexing vernacular is always approved. All right, 254-339-1122 is the text line. Craig, you wanted to dig a little bit more into kind of what you read with Kleofkoff in his conversation?
Yeah, I think that we we touched on one part of it, but I mean, he basically said that he's not worried about any schools leaving for the Big 12. I mean, I think that that's not necessarily new news, so to speak, but he was pretty matter of fact. He said, let's see here. The part about the Big Ten, listen, I think if schools would have left for the Big Ten, they would have left for the Big Ten already. Also, I'm very focused on things that are in my control, and I understand the whole being focused on the things that you can control. You can't prevent really Oregon or Washington or whoever else from leaving. But like, I still don't know how much the Big Ten is looking to add teams right now anyways. So, I mean, he may have a point there. But I think if the schools would have left for the Big Ten, they would have left for the Big Ten already. I don't know that I'm fully buying that. I feel like there are some things to work out that don't necessarily lend to them leaving, boom, right this moment, but could lend to them leaving in 5 months from now or after this season's over with. Or maybe he's on to something and the Big Ten's not looking to move and add teams right now. And if that's the case, then there's a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of talking points that are just completely irrelevant and are BS. Because one corner you look in, and Oregon and Washington and whatever other combination, that's happening. That's in the works. It's around the corner, this and that. And then on the other side, there's George Kliavkoff, the commissioner, who can only say what he can say. He's obviously not going to tip the cap if he did believe they were leaving. But I don't know. Do you believe that he believes that when he says that if they would have left for the Big Ten, if they were going to leave for the Big Ten, they would have left already?
No, because I think that's very naive to think that. But I think, I said this during the break, I think one of the best things that Bob Bowlesby did is he approached last year, having been blindsided with knowing that it could happen very well again if whatever the next moves he made weren't good enough for the people who might have been attractive to other leagues, that were not the Big 12. So I think that might be something he says publicly, but if he really believes it, it's naive because, again, all it takes is one school being mad and not liking it, then they're going to leave because they do have an expiring deal. So there is an out because we've already seen it happen. So if he can keep all 10 of these schools happy, that's a tenuous thing that can be just right now they're happy. The other thing is okay, I don't think anybody's going to the Big Ten. I hope it's not because Kevin Warren told you so, because I think he's done nothing but lie to you at the Pac-12 for a year to get his own way. And I'm not knocking Kevin Warren. He played the game well, almost perfectly. But if I'm the Pac-12, I don't believe anything he says because nothing he's done has helped me in the slightest.
And I think there's a very key word in one of his statements as well. He talks about the whole conference signing a grant of rights agreement, which I think is just totally not happening. I mean, why would that happen? But unless, again, the Big Ten's not interested. But he said that the process is complex, but that a TV deal would happen, quote, in the near future, and that he's confident the 10 remaining members will sign a GOR agreement, a grant of rights. And that would be great if that was just that, right? But then he says, if we put the right agreement in front of them. So that's a pretty big if. Yeah. If we put the right agreement in front of them. The media rights deal has always been a balance. Revenues at the top of priorities. We also have to balance that against distribution. And I don't know if you've seen some of their scheduling. The Pac-12 schedule is just an absolute embarrassment. I mean, it truly is. Like that deal, we go back to that well of how awful that deal was in hindsight for the Pac-12 over and over and over again.
You talking about the network?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you've got Oregon State, who's one of the up-and-coming programs. They're playing at like 11 p.m. Eastern time. Here soon. And there were some other games that I noticed yesterday that were just absurd kickoff times on the Pac-12 network as opposed to national coverage for programs that really are kind of are deserving of national coverage and, could really benefit from national coverage. And instead they're like at an off hour on the Pac-12 network that not really a whole lot of people even have. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that thing remains a mess, but he's hanging on to the hopes that they can get money that will be satisfactory, but also distribution. And I know they brought up Amazon and but I'm just not seeing it, man. I'm not seeing how that's going to carry the water for you. And I don't see how that's keeping members on board unless they really just don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. And in that way, like maybe you can raise your arms like Rocky and declare victory that they're sticking around. But the only way I really see that happening is because they don't have the invitation. Mm-hmm. And maybe he's armed with that knowledge that that's not coming anytime soon and he can speak more confidently. But that also is a big if in the whole grant of rights talk and, talking about media rights and distribution and all of that. I mean, they got a lot of work to do in that regard, and they have to do it now without USC in particular and UCLA, without the LA market. So I'm just having a hard time seeing how that's going to improve all that much, even if Amazon were to get involved.
And again, this is very political when it comes to it. So it's just like him saying, no, our party's going to keep the House of Representatives. You have to make the electorate think so, because if you're like, look, no matter what you guys do, vote, don't vote, we're screwed. There's more of them than there are of us. I can't, you can't do that. So yes, he's stumping for the league, which is his job. I think there's a difference between stumping, which he has to do, and then actually believing things, because if you actually believe that it's going to stop, that's exactly when you get the rug pulled out from under you, because he was walking around this summer going, Los Angeles is mine. I want to move the league office there. And then whoosh, gone.
Yeah, he mentioned also, the UCLA travel calculations and how they're basically going to break even, if anything. But then again, the Big Ten is going to increase money. It's not like it's just going to stay stagnant. It's going to raise, and so they'll eventually be making gobs of money. And I have a hard time believing that with just travel expenses and coaching. Like if your travel expenses and your coaching salaries are wiping out like $60 million extra a year, then maybe you need to reevaluate your spending, because that seems pretty ridiculous. If they're really looking at, because volleyball has to travel to other parts of the country, they're going to wipe out this gob of tens of millions of dollars that they're, now promised as Big Ten members. So,
in fact, that money that they're promised is going to help the volleyball team and some others do whatever they want to do.
They're going to be on chartered flights now.
Yeah.
So, I think that if that breaking even means you're on better flights with planes that, you're more comfortable on, then you actually did gain something still. And I still don't know how the math adds up to where you would somehow be breaking even or slightly. That doesn't make sense.
He said back of the envelope.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's our back of the envelope calculations. Oh, so this was just you guys kind of throwing it against the wall. Like, where are your accountants in the office? Because if you knew that, if you could prove that to UCLA, you could have told them that before they left. But my guess is that UCLA has already done this math.
UCLA's gone.
Because
I know they're going to be meetings and
Yeah.
all that. Washington and Oregon, this is from John Baptist in the chat room. Washington and Oregon are not coming to the Big Ten. Has anyone ever caught a flight out of Seattle or Portland to the upper Midwest? It's hell trying to get out of the Pacific Northwest. That's the fans.
Hey.
The football teams are going from point A to point B.
By the way, he says that on a day where TSA lines in Seattle at SeaTac Airport were backed up into the parking garage.
Were they really?
Yes.
You know what I would do?
Okay, yeah, we're not.
Cancel my
I'd
flight.
be the lead story on every single national network. Yeah.
So I know that George Klavkov's got to say what he's got to say. I mean, he's the figurehead of the conference, but I do see people then run to the comments that want them to be of meaning and of some substance, and take this as a great sign for the Pac-12. I just fail to see it. I think it's great lip service. I think it's a lot of hope. And I think it's a lot of, and that's, look, I'm not saying that the Big 12 by any means, like, that they're in a super strong position and they're the power three, but I'm not saying that. I mean, we can be realistic about where we are and who we cover and all of that. I don't know how great their next TV deal is going to be, but there's hope because they struck first and they went and got teams a year ago right in the thick of losing teams, whereas the Pac-12's basically just stayed as is. And, had the brief little flare-up with, maybe the Cal board will cease this from happening, and that was a long shot, and that never happened. And, now it's just a matter of how can they keep this together while in the midst of negotiations. But haven't heard much on that front besides a little Amazon flare. And, again, that stuff is like, that could be coming straight from Klyavkov to an agent. Hey, put that out there. Try to get a little smoke going. There's certainly a lot of that. So, I don't know. I guess depending on your point of view, you could take that as positives, but it's hard to kind of see that in those comments.
Honestly, and I know that these stories have fueled a lot of you who watch us now because of the Texas, Oklahoma, and if you were from one of the other fan bases that were like, wait a minute, what about us? Or some of the possibilities, eventually the incoming four and many others that we thought were at least on the radar, and then the USC, UCLA. A lot of you're here because of that, and we appreciate that. But it has been, to me, kind of nice that is it's not out, it's out there, but it hasn't been every single day the ups and downs of whatever might be reported. And it's out there, and you do know Brett Yormark was in Waco on Saturday for the Baylor game. Mac Rhoades is going to join us in a moment, and Mac has made this clear. They're working on things. Now, whether they do that anytime soon or this just ramps back up again anytime soon, I don't know.
And in that regard with Mac Rhoades, Klyavkov, one of the other comments worth mentioning, reiterated his guarantee that they will not lose any schools to the Big 12. So,
wow.
We'll see.
Don't know.
And honestly, that's fine.
By the way, we got a $4.99 super chat from Chris Borderline about 30 minutes ago. I told Chris we would get to it. This is a completely different question, but I wanted to get it before Mac. Guys, if the SEC goes to 3 permanent schools, who do you see Texas and OU being matched with? Love the show. Go Tigers. And, of course, that's the Cajun go. That's the Garrett go.
Yes.
Right there. So,
Go Tigers.
I think for OU, OU and Texas will be matched together because they're not going to.
No doubt.
There's no doubt they're going to do that. I think that Arkansas would be a possibility for them, and Missouri. People forget about Missouri, but
borders.
But so
for Oklahoma,
yeah.
Texas, obviously, I think Arkansas is a safe bet. I mean, A&M would be a safe bet too, but I think, two of those three with Texas for sure, and then one of those two for a second spot. But I think, don't you also want to kind of open it up? Like, if you got Oklahoma, like, why the heck are you going to limit them to just the regional schools? Like, throw them against Tennessee or Florida or Georgia or any number of teams.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that the fans are excited about.
Right, but I know that this is going to be, like, depending if they want to do it like it's a local thing, a local bubble that makes the most sense, then, Arkansas, A&M, Texas, boom, you're done and free.
But if they have common opponents and A&M and Texas are not common opponents, what does that mean? Does that mean that A&M is good with that? Or does that mean that Texas says we don't want to have to deal with them unless we play them?
You've moved on to Texas.
Huh?
You've moved on to Texas now. We're talking about OU here.
No, I know. You're talking about common opponents. And I thought you guys were done with who you mentioned.
No, I'm talking about who would Oklahoma, in theory, play. I'm saying, it would make sense if it was Arkansas, A&M, and Texas, because if you wanted to do it locally. But I also said that Texas is an automatic. A&M or an Arkansas as that number two would seem like an automatic. But do you want to limit Oklahoma to just being in this regional bubble, or do you want to see them like, no, let's throw them against Alabama as a normal game? Well, I mean, that's why you got them in part. It's not to get them against Missouri necessarily.
But those things will now rotate on an every other year basis, so it's not like going to be distant.
Who do you think UT's?
But you don't. But like. They just threw tradition to the wall. So I don't think that they're necessarily obsessed with tradition. They're going to be to an extent, but I don't think it's like, let's reignite the Big 12 battle of Oklahoma and Missouri.
Yeah.
You also want to kind of give something new. Like, you got these teams and these teams that you've already had.
Do you think when they do that?
Put something else together that could be new and fresh.
Do they have
Texas, Florida
point structures? Yeah. Do they have like point values for each school in the upcoming SEC? So that, wait a minute, you can't have Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma as your three common rivals. Do you think there's a little give and take there?
There's going to be a little give and take. For Texas, I do think that A&M and Oklahoma are probably going to happen. And then for their third one, it could be Arkansas. But again, it could be Florida. Texas and Florida playing all the time. They are kind of mirror images of each other.
Dude, that's more exciting to me than Texas versus Arkansas, honestly.
They're university ofs. They are the older school in their state.
Lots of money.
Yeah, lots of money. And
they'll tell you. But I want to get if Oklahoma A&M ends up being a common opponent, but Texas and A&M don't.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's not going to happen.
You got to maximize. I think everybody's.
What's the point? What would be the point of that?
I think everybody's going to get one. A&M's, I think, are going to be obvious because their maximum.
LSU, Oklahoma, and.
No, I think it's going to be LSU. I don't think A&M and Texas are going to be matched, or A&M and Oklahoma will be matched together.
Okay, A&M will be Texas, LSU, and who?
And Arkansas.
Okay, all right. That's going to be fun. I can't wait.
There's a dude who lives in Highland Park who has property all over Dallas that's football related that I think enjoys that A&M Arkansas rivalry.
Yeah, that Jerry Jones kid.
And I know I just said what I said about Texas and Arkansas. I know that's maybe not the best example, but I don't think that you just like want to reignite the Southwest Conference and the Big Eight and all this other stuff. Like they all died for a reason. Granted, you want OU Texas and you want Texas and Texas A&M, but get some new blood in there, too. Like, why have LSU and Florida and all these toys from the Southeastern Conference and these new toys that are eye to eye and not want to make something out of that? That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, the common opponents thing might be different. You're going to play some with them, but you don't want to see like a 10 or 12-year rotation where you don't get to play Georgia or Florida, even if they might beat you. That's what the fans are excited about, and they should be. When we come back, Mac Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Coming up on October the 4th, National Night Out, the city of Woodway. DiscoverWoodway.com, where you can go and, if you want, look at the options for 7 different hotels. If you can't find one in Waco, or you want to just stay there, just south of Waco, southwest of Waco on Highway 84. National Night Out. Meet your neighborhood first responders. This is a great idea. Tour fire trucks, police cars, SWAT vehicles, and more. And get to know those who are protecting you, especially in these day and age. I think it's important in this day and age. I think the relationships, and this is great for those first responders as well, to show you what they do and what they have, and perhaps start a dialogue and a relationship and communication pipeline. It's National Night Out, October 4th at 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. DiscoverWoodway.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mac Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor football starts Big 12 play in Ames against Iowa State this weekend after a 2-1 non-conference record. Mac Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Good afternoon. Thanks for your time. As always, Mac, I saw Brett Yormark was at the game Saturday, back in town to just discuss some good business with you.
Yes, he was, him and his wife, Elena, were in town, and they were enjoying Baylor football and our crowd, our fans, our student athletes, and think they had a great time. I hope they had a great time.
I'll tell you something that was interesting to me, and I maybe this is just me, but he was walking from the president's suite towards the elevator, and I forgot who he was with, and I just said, "Hey, Commissioner," he said, I met you at Big 12 Media Days. We interviewed you. He goes, "David Smoak." I have not talked to him, seen him, or heard from him in exactly 2 months. Is that someone that he kind of like remembers those details like that?
Yeah, he does. And you're a celebrity, so of course he's going to remember you.
Good God.
I mean, you teed that up. Just teed that
I
up.
think he did that on purpose.
Man, I'm going to use this for my resume. No, I can't remember. I'm terrible with names. That's why I asked about that as well, with what you've seen along the way with him. Mac Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us.
Mac, we've seen some things going on with the SEC and some of their non-conference games that were scheduled a couple years out getting canceled. How close is the Big 12 to figuring out their schedule? And is realignment scheduling harder or more difficult than COVID scheduling?
I would say that COVID scheduling is probably harder just as a cancellations or the frequency of them. But that is a great question. I think we're close. We're going to have some additional conversations. We know it's something here we've got to do shortly, and again, just truthfully vetting this idea of divisions versus one division, and then trying to get a sense of just what the future looks like, meeting the next 2 years after this season. Texas, Oklahoma, part of it, they're not a part of it, and so all of that is fluid, and so it makes it a little bit challenging, but I think we're close, and hopefully here we should know direction soon.
Mac, as I'm sure you noticed or someone pointed out to you when the SEC talked about their schedule release and then there was those cancellations, everybody's automatically assumed like, oh my gosh, Oklahoma and Texas are leaving early. When do you think you guys will have a sense of knowing that, hey, we can plan for 24, we can plan for 25 if need be, and we know that will be a part of it? Like, is there a timeline on where you guys will actually have some certainty in that regard? Because obviously it would seem like you would need to.
Yeah, no, Craig, it's a fair question, and obviously, eventually, we need to. I hesitate to put a timeline because it's fluid, and but I would certainly hope by the end of this calendar year we're going to know kind of the future, and are they going to be part of the the 20. Well, certainly you would think they're going to be part of the 23 football schedule, but I think the bigger question is, are they going to be part of the 24 football schedule? And so, I think that, I'd like to think sooner than the end of the calendar year, but just probably as a safety net have chosen certainly by the end of the calendar year.
Mac, no matter when they leave, can you ever see a point where they would not pay the exit fees or whatever those numbers have been?
Yeah, I don't think so. And again, so much of that is fluid, and whether or not it's the full amount, I think remains to be determined. Just as it's like it's been in other conferences with precedent and members leaving. So I think there's that question mark still to be determined. But I do think, yes, absolutely, they will end up paying an exit fee.
So because
Yep.
So because of that, is it now? I wouldn't say amicable, but does anybody really care if they leave in 24 or 25? Because if they left and skipped the 20 and weren't in this league in the 24 season, that just means everybody would have come to an agreement and everybody would have been made whole.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody is sitting here, that's really stuck a flag in the ground in terms of whether or not they're here for the 24 season or not. The exit fee, termination fee is what it is. It's that's an obligation to pay whether or not they remain all the way up through the 24 football season, end of 25 spring athletic season. So that happens regardless, versus if they, go a year early. So, I think that, however it plays out, we're going to make it work. And, and I think everybody's been been cordial with one another. And, it's just I don't know, it's the odd circumstance that we're in right now that college athletics is in when we think about, conference realignment and we think about, all of the other changes that are upon us.
Mac, in terms of on the field, obviously a very emotional and just weirdly, I guess setup game just in BYU in terms of the time zone change and the travel and all that came with that. The adversity of that game was a tough one. You wondered kind of how Baylor would bounce back, and this past Saturday they got the win against Texas State. What were your thoughts on seeing the team get back home, get back into the swing of things at McLean Stadium, and get back in the win column?
Yeah, I was proud of our young men and our staff to move on. Quite frankly, that BYU loss hurt, and I was still fired up about it. 6 days later, the Friday before our game against Texas State, and I think if you really asked and people were truthful that there were others, staff and student athletes that felt the same. But I thought that you saw a little bit of them wander, particularly in the second quarter, but we're focused again the second half, and thought it was a really, really good effort on both sides of the ball. I think offensively it was over 501 yards, and I think close to not 300, but very close to 300 on the ground. And so, yeah, I was proud of the staff and our student athletes, and Coach and I, we talked about it leading up to the week. It's, certainly, his responsibility wasn't just with our players or student athletes, but it was also with the staff and getting everybody refocused and aligned and, with great energy going into the Texas State game.
Mac, with all due respect to what you guys do on game day at McLean Stadium, and I know that there's always work in progress, and you try to find ways to get the crowd involved, and there's certain traditions you also abide by, et cetera. Can you imagine the atmosphere at Brigham Young and Provo? Can you ever imagine that atmosphere at Baylor? Did we lose him?
We lost for a second.
Okay, just a second. Try to get him back. Mac Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor University. I like what he was talking about with, again, there's open-minded about, and probably the Texas-Oklahoma, where it was at this time last year as far as the relationship with the conference, et cetera, and where it is now. Doesn't mean there's not bad blood, but they're working, I would think, everybody working together to move on so everyone can go live their new life.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
here's a check you have to write, and here's a check you have to write.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I guess maybe if you read super into the words and his tone and all that, you could probably catch something new from those. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all sorts of plays out. We're all looking for answers, but not going to get them anytime soon.
Mac, can you ever see the day that the atmosphere you saw and experienced, and so did everyone else at Baylor, at Brigham Young and Provo? Can you ever have that kind of atmosphere at McLean Stadium?
Yeah, why not? I think for us it's a work in progress, and I think we continue to improve our atmosphere, and that was an amped up game for them. I don't know if it's like that for every game. I would argue that when we played Oklahoma here last year or Texas last year, that was a pretty special amped up environment. I know that the Fox folks thought so when we played Oklahoma at home. So, but no doubt lessons learned. I think when you go on the road, you're always looking at what others do, and you measure them up against yourself and how you can improve. And Javon and her team, Aaron Jean and them, I think we continue to grow and evolve, and I know that there were some really, really cool things that BYU did. They did it really, really well, and again, it was good for us to experience that.
Mac, as part of that, you have those games like the Texas and Oklahoma game, and then you kind of look back and go, okay, what outside of the opponent, what else did we do to try to put it in the bottle? I know it happens with us here. We get like a good video with a hit on YouTube, and okay, how do we put this in a bottle so we can pour it over the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opponent matters, but hopefully we can continue to grow this into where no matter who we play, who we compete against, right? It's going to be that type of energy, and I think that's where it starts is the energy, the number of fans in the stands, and so I think for us to be able to make that our standard, every single game is certainly a goal for us, and it's a process, and I think again, not saying that we've been perfect. I think there's room for growth, and there's going to be continued room for growth. But that's our challenge is making McLean Stadium a place that's just got great energy, great vibe. A place that's really exciting to be a part of.
I don't know if this is official, so you may not be able to respond, but do you know Scott Draper very well, who appears to be the one replacing Ed Stewart?
So I won't comment on whether he is or he isn't, but I do know Scott well. We spent time together when I was at the University of Houston.
Okay.
And he was in the I think we had a brief stint as the Big East, and then became the American Athletic Conference, and know him well. And I can say this, that when I was there at Houston and working with him, he was exceptional. Did a great job.
I don't buy Baylor merchandise. But I know I've bumped into fans that do, and it may not even make sense. But somebody said, "Can you ask Mac the next time you have him on, where can we buy Nike Baylor merchandise that seems to be available to some other schools, but that we can't get?" Is that even in discussions what you guys do?
Yeah, no, it is, and again, I don't know if that's truly the case that Nike apparel with other schools is available. I think that at least I can speak on behalf of Baylor that we are, or Nike has experienced significant supply chain issues. We've certainly had conversation about them, and you think about Nike jerseys with student athletes' names on them. We were expecting those. We continue to say they're coming soon, but not, again, available because of supply chain issues. So it's a work in progress. I think I could probably honestly say that Nike's frustrated, and so is Baylor.
Mac, when a team like West Virginia is a part of the Big 12, or like what we see now with the Big 10 with USC and UCLA, and they're way out, different time zones, even though Cincinnati, UCF, and whatever is coming to the Big 12, is there ever any talk about a supplement or a stipend for a school that's kind of isolated on travel cost?
Yeah, great question. Really a thoughtful question. We haven't had those conversations specifically with the West Virginia. I think that was certainly part of they're coming into the Big 12. It's not been a conversation, for example, with a UCF. I'm not sure BYU is a great example, even though they're fairly far out west, but I think it's a reasonable thought, but certainly haven't had those conversations.
Do you feel like Texas and Oklahoma and the Big 12 are more amicable these days than they were perhaps a year ago?
Great. Probably not. I mean, I think we're getting, look, we're professionals. I would like to think that. And, I think, they're professional when I think about, or when I'm talking about Oklahoma and Texas and our membership, the 8, and you can even throw in the 4 that are coming in. So, I think everybody has respect for one another, but I'm not sure that it's any better than it was a year ago.
Thanks for your time as always, Mac. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mac Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics at Baylor University on SICK on 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I didn't know how he was going to answer that.
That was an ender. That's what did Bill Parcells say? That was an ender?
Chan Gailey.
That's an ender. That's an ender right there. I mean, but I mean, how could you be really? I mean, you be professional, like you said, but I think when you see people talking about the schedule and you don't hear, like when we talked to him about Texas and OU and making the schedule and how you do that, I don't think that anybody cares when they leave, because now they know when they leave, everybody's going to get the money, everybody's going to be made whole, and that's going to be it. So do it, don't do it, 24, 25.
That's what I was trying to say the other day, was like, there's no point in dancing around it and trying to be like, let's pull a swift one behind. I mean, you can't really pull a swift one anyways, but even the thought of them trying to like somehow screw the Big 12 again by leaving earlier than expected, what's the point? Like, no one's begging you to stay. You're not going to stay, even if they were to beg. Everybody's like fine and content with going their separate ways. And I think everybody would probably prefer it to go ahead and happen quickly, but there are such things as contracts and
bylaws and stuff.
Bylaws. Yeah. And you know what? Texas and Oklahoma, you have to adhere to those. Everybody does. So, if you want to get around that, but just do it. Like I don't care at this point about the song and dance, about the will they, won't they, when they win, all that. Just they do, they don't. Great, fine, whatever. But I'm going to still be here talking about the Big 12 and whatever, schedule those two are playing against whoever they're playing when that time comes. But yeah, at this point, I think just the marriage is rotten, and just go ahead and get divorced already. But I understand that there's some things that have to be sorted through, obviously on the payment side of things. So yeah, I think we'll get one more year, and then after that, I really don't have a whole lot of faith past 23 that this thing's going to stay around. And I think maybe before I was thinking 24, that 2 more years would be because there's 3 left technically, right?
Well, this one, next one, and 24, right? Because 25 would be the...
Yeah, so I thought that they would say next one and then be out for the following, but I don't feel... I think I feel strongly about that now. Yeah, I don't think they're staying until the end of the deal.
Donnell made the comment on the chat room that, at this point it feels like Oklahoma and Texas are being held hostage. And no way. Actually, when they made the decisions, both of them were very smart when they mentioned that they would be leaving in 2025, knowing that there would be some sort of negotiations along the way. They were hoping at the time that everything would just obliterate. It didn't happen. The Big 12 saved itself, at least as much as they could. And now, behind the scenes, there are discussions. Brett Yormark made it clear back in July. He wants something that would be a win-win. The win-win for Oklahoma is being able to leave. The win-win for the Big 12 is making sure they get what they get. Plus, could be a trading piece with television networks. You let them go a year or 2 early. Here's what you get in return, and your contract and TV deal is going to be pretty good along the way.
Yeah, and if it's not so much holding hostage, it's holding them to a contract. That's the point of the contract. I mean, if not for that, you just let's just tear that up, then what's the point of it? So no, they're not being held hostage. They're being held to a contract that they willingly signed and agreed to, and and it's not like there's no out for them. There is an out, but the contract's going to be lived up to the extent that it needs to be lived up to as far as the grant of rights go. And then after that, go pay your hefty fee and get out if you want. But, the only reason this is happening is because you made the choice to make this happen. So, there's no feeling sorry for the group that's looking to exit. You got to live up to that contract again.
All right, when we come back, Craig is off the radar. We do appreciate you every single day with 365 Sports. Please hit the like button. Again, tell everybody, subscribe if you haven't. SICK 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans, the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I got a box from Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol the other day. They said, hey, come on by. I do endorsements for them. I smoked the cigars they have inside their 48-foot walk-in humidor, and I've used some of their CBD product as well. The Vita Dreams is what it was called, with a gummy in the evening or whenever you're ready to go to bed, an hour or so you kind of learn along the way, and it allows you to fall asleep more comfortably, and you get a full night's sleep rather than tossing and turning, waking up when you wish you would have gone to bed 45 minutes to an hour earlier. Ashton, Macanudo, and much more. Rocky Patel, Romeo and Julieta, Cohiba, CAO, Padron. I got a box of the number 6 Rocky Patel. It was fantastic. And when I play a round of golf, I will try to smoke a handful of cigars throughout the round that I'm on. And when I talk to my brother Robert on occasion on FaceTime at night just to check in to see how he's doing, he's on the back porch usually smoking a cigar. He'll say, hey, let's smoke a cigar together. And we get on FaceTime and we do that. It's great. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center, your home for the best in cigars. 48-foot walk-in humidor, Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. For those just joining us, this is basically a 10-minute or so segment taking a look at just a grab bag of stories from around the world of sports. Some of it will be college football related, depending on the news cycle, and some of it might not be related to college football at all, depending on the news cycle. And little light on college football news because I think most of it's pretty well covered, from Klyavkov's comments to the coaching, carousel. We've talked about that previously, and nothing's really changed there. Do not buy into Las Vegas bets on who the favorite is for the next head coach. That is almost never ever accurate and is mostly just to steal your money. So not going to get into hot boards and things like that at the moment, but I do have a few stories that are of note. And we'll start off in the NFL, where last night you got a Monday Night Football doubleheader, had simultaneous action going on with the dual screen and all that came with that at times. But Sunday for the NFL had two huge broadcasts. The Cowboys and Bengals was a part of that national window. Obviously, a pretty thrilling game there that came down to the very end. But also, right in that same kind of time frame was Cardinals and Raiders, which turned out to be a hell of a ball game. Kyler Murray, just an insane showing there at the end of that game. But the national window, Bengals, Cowboys, and OT of Cardinals, Raiders, averaged a 14.1 rating, equivalent to 27.39 million viewers on CBS. 27.39 million for the national window, Bengals, Cowboys, and OT of Cardinals, Raiders, the highest Week 2 audience since at least 2000, and the previous high was 27.18, so about 200,000 less back on Fox in 2015. So one thing that sports media, I think it was Watch, pointed out was, you do have a difference now in terms of how the ratings go. As of a couple of years ago, you get some of that out-of-home viewing also calculated in. So numbers from the past might be not as accurate, but slightly, right? So that is taken into account versus, what they're being compared against. But that's a massive number, 27.39 million viewers on CBS, largest Week 2 audience since 2000.
Cowboys are gold, no matter what. And you wonder sometimes if Jerry's, as long as they're a part of the lead discussions on these shows every week and they're winning just enough to stay relevant, or if they're losing, there's a drama because of it, they are gold. It does not matter they have not won a Super Bowl since 1995. It doesn't matter. They drive eyeballs. It's crazy. And they have the Giants coming up at Monday night. Monday night, Giants at 2-0. Fans are going nuts there. You already have those two massive markets. That could be monstrous on Monday, but good for them. The NFL is it's undefeated.
Yeah, it's a giant. There's, I'm sure there's eventually something they can do wrong, but that's why when everybody decides that they're going to protest or I'm not going to watch or this and that and that, okay, well, they're not worried about you because there's plenty of people who are just going to turn on their TVs instead. So
people watch them to watch them win, or watch them because they want to see them lose.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But, the NFL with some massive ratings. Still have not seen an accurate number for the Amazon broadcast. I have not seen the release of that. And I know there were a lot of people that were speculating on what those numbers could be, but there are no final figures from Chargers and Chiefs on Thursday night. And then there's just kind of a scattering of, where other broadcasts were. The NFL doesn't always top itself. There were some that are down slightly, here and there, but that is a massive number, obviously for who was it, CBS. And then last night, the doubleheader, as I mentioned, fun to see a couple of games going on. You had Tennessee and Buffalo. That turned into just a tail kick, and the Buffalo Bills on a tear. Josh Allen throws for over 300. Stephon Diggs goes off, and they beat the Titans 41-7 last night. So what do you make of Bills 41, Titans 7?
The Titans got some problems. But I think they'll probably get them worked out. That was a tough loss in Week 1.
They can't get the lead to run the ball with Derrick Henry.
No, they do. And I think if the Bills cannot win the Super Bowl with this roster, the way it's constructed, the best one they've had in 30 years.
Yeah.
Then the
There's no
football
hope.
gods
You're talking
are
about
angry.
Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, all those guys.
Since
Andre
those
Reed.
guys.
30 years ago.
So if they cannot win with the best roster they've had in 30 years, then Jack Kemp did something to anger the football gods back in the 70s when they were in the AFL, and it's never going to happen. So I don't know. But Josh Allen is a juggernaut. He is not to be trifled with. They have weapons all over the field. They don't even have to run the ball necessarily and win, although I think in December that's going to help them if they have a better run game. But their defense is really good, and they added Von Miller to it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to stop the Bills.
Josh Allen's a beast. And again, we overreact early, but they're 2-0. They've blown people out the doors with what they do on offense. And they're fun to watch. They are fun to watch.
Yep.
41-7 against a team in the Titans just a year or two ago. Was it they almost played in the Super Bowl?
Elsewhere in that window on Monday night, Eagles and Jalen Hurts had a massive game, 24-7 over the Vikings. Jalen Hurts, 26 of 31, 333 yards passing, had a TD, also had an interception, got sacked 3 times, but also ran for 2 scores and about 60 yards rushing or close to 60 yards rushing. So the Eagles off to a nice start at 2-0, and they handle business against the Vikings.
Yeah, the Eagles look good. I mean, that A.J. Brown, the Eagles offseason was the exact 180 of the Cowboys offseason. The Eagles offseason was, what deficiencies do we have? How can we maximize Jalen Hurts? How can we maximize what we have? And let's go add things. They added draft picks. They traded some of the draft picks they added, and they still have more. Howie Roseman took a very frank look at the roster and, went through a couple years of fixing it, and then when he had his opportunity, he went for it. And
A.J. Brown, they got the guy from Georgia as a steal, right, in the draft?
Yeah, Nakobe Dean. Everything
here's
they did.
the concern I have, though.
They pawned off Jalen Reagor on the Vikings. Poor guy got booed mercilessly in Philly last night. They admitted all their mistakes, and they moved forward. I know Jalen Hurts is a guy that's going to be a dual threat. And I understand he had an incredible game last night. I still think there are some unnecessary runs with him involved. You want to use him because he's got great legs, and he 11 carries, 57 yards, and 2 scores. That's part of the deal. But I think there were about 3 to 5 times when he just carried out by himself in the open, slid sometimes didn't. That's how you're going to get him hurt. Yeah.
You want to use his legs, but you don't need to run him 4 to 5 times extra just because. That's my opinion.
I agree.
So the Titans and Bills game averaged a little under 8 million viewers on ESPN, ESPN2. ABC, Eagles, Vikings had 12.9 million. So all of it under the Disney umbrella got you close to 21 million viewers. They did the split screen stuff. What did you think of all that?
I missed it because we had to run to the hardware store last night, and that's with my Titans fan fiance. But by the time that I came to pick her up, after I got done with Big 1-2 last night, it was already 24-7. So
yeah, that'll cancel that out. It was okay. You know what confused me, and I don't know why it shouldn't have. I finally got the score in the top left-hand corner of the Eagles-Vikings game was the Bills game, and I kept thinking that was the score of the game I was watching, and I got confused. Maybe that's just wasn't paying attention, but that kind of was a different thing for me.
I worry about you.
Yeah.
It happened to me.
Yeah,
it did happen to me.
Good.
He's 30 years younger than me.
I was worried we're going to have to start giving you soft foods and
diapers.
Well, elsewhere in the NFL, Cole Beasley signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice squad. So that is of note. The former Cowboys wide receiver getting signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also, Geno Smith has trademarked his quote from Week 1. They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. He has now trademarked that. I don't know if the best timing, probably should have done that after the win in Week 1 and not after the loss in Week 2. But, hey, okay, he's trademarked it nonetheless, so they wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. Now belongs to Geno Smith after he trademarked that. Just kind of a interesting note there. Elsewhere, LIV Golf. LIV Golf players, about 50 or so, who have joined the league have now sent paperwork or sent a letter lobbying for the ability to receive world golf ranking points. And this was a sticking point as far as kind of like what will they be able to do, what will they won't be able to do, what will be still like it was with the PGA and what won't be. And the world golf rankings was one of those big bugaboos. Well, now a number of LIV golfers have all gotten together, like I said, 50 players who joined the league, lobbying for the circuit to receive world ranking points. LIV Events requested inclusion into the world ranking back in July, and they were told that the process could take as long as a year, and that there was no specific timetable. The letter was sent on Friday, and the 48 players who signed it all played in last week's event in Chicago. They claim the level of competition at the average LIV event is at least equal to that at the average PGA Tour event. A world ranking without LIV would be incomplete and inaccurate, the equivalent of leaving the Big Ten or the SEC out of the U.S. college football rankings, or leaving Belgium, Argentina, and England out of the FIFA rankings.
Okay, I read the same article, and they play 54 holes. There are certain requirements. There are certain things you have to be able to do to get world golf rankings. Now, I think eventually they're going to get them. I do. They got a lot of momentum right now. But playing 54-hole tournaments, not because of rain delays or rain or suspensions, compared to 72, it's a big difference. The 18 holes is a big difference on earning points. Now, if they could come up with a scale for them, I don't know. I wouldn't be against it. But
I'll say this, Smokey, though. I don't
comparing themselves to the SEC and the Big Ten.
That was where that hooked me in, honestly.
Did they go to LIV because the world golf rankings were the most important thing to them, or did they all, to a man, go to LIV
because the money
to suckle at the money team?
Yeah,
that's what
and
they did.
And they thought they could probably turn the tide, and they're not. And the problem is the guys on the board of the world golf rankings. One of them's the PGA Tour commissioner.
Okay,
another one's the DP Tour, and they've got work ahead of them.
To a man, all of them were like, "Look, I understand this and that, and I have problem."
Every one of them knew that it could keep them
I understand the sacrifices I'm making,
but this is life-changing money. So they went for the money. So when you sell out, which is what they did, there are things you can't do. For example, I'll use an entertainment one. I am very annoyed, and I have been for 20 years, and this is such an arcane reference, but Jennifer Lopez has a song called Jenny from the Block, where she sings, "Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still Jenny from the Block."
No, I'm still
Jenny from the Block. Okay, I'm sorry, J-Lo, but no. Once you've got the rocks, you are not that anymore. So once you've decided, Brooks Koepka and all these guys and Phil, to leave, you're not still the same PGA guy. You sold out. You lost it.
You don't think Jennifer Lopez doesn't remember where she came from?
I don't think she gives a crap.
Well, we don't. But yeah, all these guys, they got a chance to play on some of the majors this year because they were already invited, already earned the spot. That to me is going to be whether LIV survives or the PGA Tour craters, is if they allow them to get the points to get to play in the majors, then they get the best of both worlds.
Is that like, not to make a direct comparison, but people who want to leave a conference and then also don't want to have to pay a buyout on their way out and then want to get around and just have everything free and clear their exact way and then try to blame it on the other side? Yeah. Sounds familiar. Billy Horschel, for what it's worth, said
he is so pro PGA Tour. He hates to LIV.
They knew when they signed that contract and took all that money what could come in the future for them. As I said in the beginning, they had to weigh those decisions and what the outcome could be by going there and the things they may not get in the future. They made that decision to sign the contract and take the money. So just backing up what you guys
Greg
said
Norman
there.
wants no truce. He's made that clear. Okay. He wants to cripple the PGA Tour. That's his job. That is why he's getting paid. To develop the league, develop the tour, to get all the great players, to pay them whatever they want or whatever they have to give them, which is unlimited monies. And he wants to break the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour wants to break everybody apart of LIV. This is only going to get more ugly.
Yeah, I'm sure that it will. Quick baseball note, Aaron Judge, we got, less than 20 games to go in the regular season. He's at 59 home runs after Sunday's game against the Milwaukee Brewers, in which he hit number 58 and number 59. Of course, the old home run record is what? the old home run record.
61.
61. But you know what that also still is? The AL home run record.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know that until I read that the other day, looking at Pujols on some things he was doing, and then I went into that article. Yeah.
So he has 16 more regular season games to be able to hit 2. Seems fairly certain that he will do that. He will become the new AL home run king at worst. And then we'll see, you know, if he could go on some crazy tear. He'd almost have to, hit 1 in every game from here on out to go flirt with.
73 is the record. Yeah, 1 every.
Almost 1 every game, yeah. But no, he's, if anything, he's closing in on the AL record, which is still held by Roger Maris, 61 homers back in 1961. So just 2 shy of that. Adjust your TV scheduling accordingly. But
do you want to see him break the record just so then, no matter what, then you don't have to worry about who owns the record because of the steroid era?
All that went out there. You mean break the overall record?
Yeah. He's not going to
I don't know that I feel like he's completely clean. Like, they've tarnished it for me. So I don't know. Like, the balls are juiced.
We saw a guy earlier this year, a young, talented guy, get suspended for PEDs, right?
I mean, there's PEDs still happening. There's, questions about how loaded the balls are. I mean, so, is it really totally different and clean from what they were doing? I mean, granted, it's not having, Balco products behind you in the locker while TV cameras are interviewing you like it was so, out in the open back in the day. But, I mean, I don't know who's doing what, honestly. And I don't really trust baseball players at this point after what we saw. So I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be cool for him. And I'm not certainly claiming that he does anything, but it's just, I think all of us just kind of go, okay, sure, we'll trust you. But that is of interest, and we'll see how he does there. Elsewhere, a couple of notes to close this on out. Maury Wills, LA Dodgers great, 1962 National League MVP, died today at age 89. An incredible base stealer, 3 World Series championships with the Dodgers. Died Monday in Arizona. The team was informed by family members and no cause of death was given. He played on the World Series championship teams for the Dodgers in 59, 63, and 65. Also played in Pittsburgh and Montreal, and then closed out his career with the Dodgers from 69 to 72. Played 14 years, broke Ty Cobb's single-season record for stolen bases back in 1962. Became the first player to steal more than 100 bases, and the Dodgers will now wear a patch in his memory for the rest of the year. But I brought this up because I actually remember meeting him at some charity event in Tyler, Texas in 1992 or something, and I don't know why I remember that, but I remember meeting Maury Wills when I was like 7 years old or something, and I remember him actually being really nice. And don't ask me why I remember that. Maybe for this moment right here. I don't know. But I do remember that, and I don't remember probably anything else from that time period. But I met Maury Wills, and he was a nice guy and incredible career.
Vita Blue was there?
Vita Blue was also there. But, he passed away at 89.
That's my age bracket, not 62 because I was 3, but he was the guy. And then you know who broke his record? Who was the first?
Lou Brock.
Lou Brock in 1974, 12 years later. And then I believe Ricky Henderson then maybe 8 to 10 years after that.
Ricky Henderson, they made all people who try to steal bases moot. And then the game changed a little bit where they stopped doing it for a long time, which I always thought was stupid. I actually, I never met him, but my dad and I used to sneak over to Dodger Town when I was a kid because he really liked Tommy Lasorda. So he liked Tommy Lasorda a lot. Yeah, so go to Vero Beach because it was old. And one time we sat in the stands and they were playing an old-timers game, and I saw Maury Wills and several other old Dodgers out there. Like Don Drysdale was still alive and pitching in the game, and Sandy Koufax was there. And then they had a thing where
Don Drysdale was pitching?
Yeah. I mean, it was more of a photo op than anything. Okay. It was like, you would go and be like, what is going on here? Everyone's 55 or 60 years old. And,
man, they've got some great names in Dodgers history.
Koufax was there.
There's actually a guy's name of Hugh Nicol, Nicol, who record in 1887, they have him down for 138 steals. And they list him, if you go to Google, as the all-time single-season stolen base records of 138 ahead of Ricky Henderson. And I don't know. I said, okay, is that the Negro Leagues that sometimes did not get a lot of credit? It was not. And so I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
Cincinnati Redlegs.
There's a lot of the statistics from the Negro Leagues, from just baseball's past, that it's kind of, you don't really know if it's exactly what it was, like it's just kind of the best they could do. And there's a lot of historians that have done a hell of a job trying to get all of that, as intact and correct as possible, but it's impossible to have it exactly right. So Maury Will is a legend, passing away at 89. And then finally, Pro Football Hall of Fame's released their first-year eligible 2023 nominees. You got Dwight Freeney, you got Darrelle Revis, you've got Joe Thomas as well. Those seem like the guys that will probably be a part of some of the major speculation. And then you've got some guys like Chris Johnson, Navarro Bowman, Shane Leckler.
That's why their names aren't in the
Cam
headline.
Chancellor. Yeah. So 9 new candidates for the first-year eligibility 2023 Pro Football Hall of Fame nominees. I guess a lot of that will be, centered around, like I said, Joe Thomas, Darrelle Revis, Dwight Freeney, and then we'll go from there.
We got a Hall of Fame voter coming up, and John McClain, that can give us an idea which of those three, if any of them, have a chance, at least early on, because it may take a few years.
Yeah, and there's also a bunch of other nominees announced, but we can get into that with John. There's a few things off the radar.
All right, Brett McMurphy just popped this out there. Great day at Texas Tech. Red Raiders announced their game with Texas, sold out. That's not a surprise. And the athletic department gets $11 million donation from former Tech students John and Tracy Sellers. So money pouring in to Lubbock. This is Sikkim 365, 365 Sports. Thanks to Craig and Off the Radar. JJ Joe next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Got a lot of great deals going on now at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for service, for the life of your car, for anything really that you're looking for in terms of getting a great deal, just getting that customer service like I mentioned, and just getting to a vehicle that you can be proud to drive and feel confident in driving, just having that peace of mind. As somebody who didn't have that for a long time with the vehicle that I was driving, to then moving into something that was sturdy and safe, it just makes a world of difference, changes your entire day. But right now, the wait is over. Richard Carr's got trucks in stock. 2022 GMC Sierras are on the lot and waiting for you to test drive. They offer best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, advanced collision avoidance, multi-pro tailgate, and a luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, premium comfort, and 14 camera views. So again, the 2022 GMC Sierras in stock and waiting for you to test drive. If you're looking for something specific, an exact type of truck, an exact type of SUV, and you don't see it on the lot, well, get on the inbound vehicle list over at Richard Carr. You could cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite ready to be in stock, or you can let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and they will have GMC prioritize that vehicle for you. Elsewhere on the lot, in addition to the GMC Sierras, new trucks, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All the pre-owns go through a 172-point inspection. So with dozens of lending options, Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no. For over 23 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Check out Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Reese, no chance. It's a keeper. Look at the quarterback, Shapin. Fooled everyone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Second down and 15. Joe Bonner. He's loose. He's got his second touchdown. No flags. 69 yards on that score. Tony Bowie missed the tackle. And somewhat shockingly, this game is tied.
It's time for our weekly segment with former Baylor quarterback J.J. Joe. Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
J.J. Joe, Baylor radio color analyst, joins us on Tuesdays just after 5 o'clock. We always appreciate his time. J.J., thanks for your time. Did you see the offense maybe loosen up a little bit and maybe get a little bit more fluid in the second half?
Thanks for having me, Dave. Yeah, I think they did a good job of kind of finding themselves a little bit, at least having a little success. And I think that was aided by the fact that, of course, we all saw it. Richard Reach really got going and I guess ran the way we would like for the Baylor runners to run. So, we did a little play action, got Blake started early, then we started running the ball and it kind of fell together. But, Texas State is much improved, but I still, they were overmatched. I think if they played their best game, we'd still beat them a couple, 2 or 3. So it was a good warm up, I think you could say, for what they're going to see on Saturday, which is going to be a really tough Iowa State defense.
JJ, what would you do to get these wide receivers kind of more locked in and ready to go?
Yeah, that's a good one. I just think when we talked before the season, I said, hey, they're on the clock. And there's really not much you can do outside of, I think what Coach Baker, the wide receiver coach, has started to do, and I know the coaches are doing, is give them reps and hope someone steps up. They're playing a lot of different guys. They played, Monterey's been out, but they played Seth, they played Hal, they played Armani. They played. I'm missing some guys. I mean, they played a lot of them, but really no one has stepped up to the point where Blake feels real comfortable kind of putting the ball at risk around them. So really all you can do, man, is just hope that Monterey comes back this week healthy, because I think he adds an element that we're missing, and then see if, we're getting Ben back, and hopefully someone can kind of come into that third, fourth role, but we really need it to happen.
JJ, what did you see from Blake Shapin on Saturday that was an improvement or more of the same, more of what needs correcting? What was your kind of synopsis on his play Saturday?
Yeah, he was much more, I think, under control, kind of knew what was coming for the most part, had a good idea how Texas State was going to defend him. He got the ball out. He had one where he held it, but that was 4th and I believe 5, and he forced it a little bit. And I'm not concerned about that with Blake, because he takes really good care of the ball. He got it out. He was crisp, and that was despite missing Ben Sims. So I think the challenge for Blake is, I think I keep losing track. I think that was his 5th or 6th start, is that he has to be prepared on adjusting in game. You go through a week of preparation. You have a good idea what the tendencies are, what you're going to see on this down and distance against this formation. And then in the middle of the game, stuff changes, and coaches talking to you on the headset or the phone. Hey, we're going to do this instead of doing that. We're going to do that. They're taking this way, so we're going to do this. And that's the part, that's the adjustment part quarterbacks have to get used to, is that in-game adjustment. And I have to be able to get off playing a little bit. And I think that's what he's still developing, and it just takes a little time.
Are you worried about whether they can take the top off of defense?
Smoak, I like the deep ball. That's all we threw, right? We threw 12 times a game. They're all deep. So yeah, I felt like, we lost Monterey and BYU, and I think they just got to the point where they were attacking us and they weren't worried about anybody running by them. We kind of had a couple shots, I think, we missed or just didn't connect. But I Dave, I think we really need Monterey in, because I think defenses say, hey, this guy can run, so we have to soften up or double or whatever. And everything is just like pulling teeth, man. And even with the experience of this offensive line and the grit they have, you just got to have – think about last year. I mean, between Taekwon and, Aaron and then, of course, don't forget the big games on the ground. I mean, it just seemed like every game Abram Smith broke off a 40-yard run. You got to have those in games, and that's how you go from, hey, maybe 20 points to 28. And that's what we're missing. And I sure hope Monterey's in the game and Richard Reese keeps running how he's running.
Do you think we'll see more of Squirrel this week in spite of some of his struggles last week?
Oh, yeah. I think you have to see Squirrel. I think the pecking order, you hate to see him put it on the ground, and he was kind of unsure on that kickoff return. But Squirrel really isn't a fumbler. I know he hadn't played in a while, but I remember when he was a young player playing, when he came in against Iowa State. When was that? In 1920. It's been forever. But, I think it's just one of those things, and they're going to need him because Squirrel has, if I had to kind of put a tag on each one of them, to me, Richard Reese is kind of like, the talent, the speed. He's just kind of, he sees it, boom, he just goes. To me, Squirrel he's the guy that feels it. To me, Squirrel doesn't even have to see the hole. He just feels the hole, and he knows where to go, and he's that guy. And to me, Quaylen and Tay are going to be the short yardage kind of, hey, let's get the tough yards. Let's change the pace. So I think they'll have to use Squirrel. Richard will probably, I bet you, start, and they'll feel from then on out. But I think Squirrel is going to be a very important part of this offense on the go forward.
JJ, what did you see defensively? Obviously, it seemed like at times Texas State was able to kind of hit the belly of the defense, found some soft spots, but, they eventually would bristle up, inside the 30 and get stops, whether that be a blocked field goal or turnover on downs. But, clearly they're going to play much better offenses starting this week. Just your thoughts on the defensive performance.
Yeah, defensively, I think we're, it's hard for me to say because I have high expectations for these guys too. We expect with 7 however many returning starters for these guys to just be dominant, right? And even when you're playing a Texas State or if you're playing whatever division team, the way teams spread you out a little bit and the passing concepts, teams are going to move the ball on you. I mean, BYU it felt like BYU had 450. They had like 368, 66 or something. And that was with OT yards. Texas State had, 270, 280. And you think about it, in the course of a game, that really isn't much. Now, they moved the ball. And if you ask me, what we have to improve, and I'm writing this for you guys today, is that, our pass defense. The first way you can mute a rush is allow guys to throw over the top, or you can't play really good zone defense. I think we struggle when we don't bring pressure and man up. If we play zone, we struggle a little bit. We're a little bit more porous. And in this week, Iowa State, this is a different team. They want to throw that ball around. So we're going to see a lot of Hutchinson and all these different receivers.
They almost hit that deep ball to Presley. That was the one that would have been great, just to kind of, if anything, just breathe. It would have been nice to get that done. Dave Aranda in the postgame mentioned, and I think you mentioned this to Ricky before halftime, but he mentioned that the team had been playing maybe, or there was an almost uptight, worried about expectations, worried about maybe what they were doing individually, not so much as a team. And maybe the ghost of last year's team. Did you sense that as well?
I did. I don't know if they asked that before, but I asked that question when he was on with me.
Okay.
I asked him. I asked him, hey man, are you guys internally? Do you feel like you're fighting the ghost of the 21 squad? And he kind of answered, like you said, in the affirmative. Like, I think the weight of the expectations is not like, I don't think this team at all is concerned about the pressure. I think that that's not it. It's just, they expect to be playing at a level, and they know they're not there yet, and they're measuring themselves, and it's frustrating that, hey, we played like this last year, and we're not even close, but we have all these great guys back. And the challenges each year, man, is so organic, and it's its own living entity, is that even if you have a lot of the same guys, it's not the same squad. And it's just going to take – you have to go through the same process. That team went through the process of winning close against Iowa State, battling this, figuring this out. They had guys make plays in different difficult environments. And on top of this now, guys, don't forget this. Last year's team had all the big games at home, outside of, say, probably Kansas State. That's a huge difference. That's why I said this team, I could see them being just as good, but maybe 10-2, 9-3. I'm not calling that. That's not what I want. But, when you have to go to BYU, and then you have to go to Lubbock. I hate Lubbock. That's why I keep using Lubbock. When you have to go to Austin, when you have to go to Norman, I mean, those are huge. Those are big time games and big time environments.
I said this before Brigham Young, that game to me kind of sets up a chance for them to have that 9 or 10 win season. But now, win or lose that game, to me, is this a game, JJ, because of what you just said? If you win it, you still have a chance at that. If you don't, you're going to be scratching and clawing to get to 7 wins or so.
Yeah, I would be surprised if this team scraped to get to 7-8 wins. They just have too much talent, too much, I think, DNA of knowing how to win games. Because if we think back even to the BYU game, and I said this last week, that team was resilient. They kept coming back. If you think about it, they fought back, and I think at the end we just didn't lead, and that was in spite of all the mental errors and mistakes and penalties. So I think this week, this is huge. I think for this team, and Coach Aranda knows it, if you win this one, because you got to think, after this one comes Oklahoma State. A top 10 team comes into your stadium.
Yep.
And then you're going to have to, after that, you have to go, even though they lost the kid, you got to go to Morgantown. Nobody, at night, everybody knows what that place is like. So I really believe that if Baylor can win this game, I think it gives you, for lack of a better term, I keep using it, it's called the mojo, I call it. It's that feeling like, okay, not that Iowa State is ranked, but you're going on the road, and what Coach wants to see is that they've learned. Did you learn from BYU? If you go and you're successful and win, the coach doesn't have to tell you learned. You know you learned, and then you're ready. And then I think you go on that run.
JJ, great stuff. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback and Baylor Radio color analyst with us. Great to have the input each Tuesday, just after 5 o'clock with us, Sick on 365 Radio. Game is 11 o'clock, Ames, Iowa, Saturday. We'll have our pregame show on KWTX TV and also right here on 365 Sports on Saturday at 9 o'clock and much more of course, throughout the rest of the week. When we come back, in fact, we'll hear from John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, and also GallerySports.com writer. One note about men's basketball. Baylor, about a week ago, the news came out that L.J. Cryer had been cleared to play. Today, the news came out, John Rothstein had this, that Langston Love has been fully cleared without restrictions to work his way back into the lineup for Baylor, and that's a player they truly missed him. Of course, LJ was out quite a bit at times.
If that roster can get the kind of health juice that they got in 2021, which was the national championship year, watch out, because it's going to be fun no matter what. But it's going to be a fun roster this year, watching that Baylor men's basketball team.
All right, one other note. Somebody asked about the LIV 54 holes compared to 72. Let me tell you this. How many guys would have won a major had it been 54 holes?
I mean, Greg Norman would have won 11 of them. I mean, so
and
maybe that's why they do it.
How many guys wouldn't have?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And there's the cream that rises to the top. You hear about the back nine at Augusta National on Sunday. There's nothing like it. We've seen guys melt down. We've seen guys who have won majors just like throw up all over themselves, and then some that just haven't. And that's the enticement. Make tons more money and play less golf and less tournaments. That's hard to say no to, and a lot of guys didn't. And so that was the 54 holes compared to the 72. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, Jay Errett, the owner, 220 Lake Air Drive. He's really good at what he does to market his business. His TV commercials, if you haven't seen them, and we run some of them right here on 365 Sports. They're pretty funny. Talks about truck nudity, pickup beds that are exposed and all of that. Here's what they do. They put bed covers and bed liners in your pickup truck or on it. They also have grill guards and bumpers. They have steps as well if you have a truck that's a little bit higher than normal off the ground. And it did not come with any kind of a step that comes out for you to get into the pickup truck. Some of these are way off the ground, and a lot of them do come with that when you buy it. But if not and you want it, they can install that as well. I had a Tahoe that nearly had 400,000 miles, and I remember they added things to it to make it better and really helped me out until finally it ran out of literally life at 376,000 miles. If they can help a Tahoe that was beaten up over 20-plus years, they can help your car. New, old, or whatever. Pickup Outfitters, tell Jay Errett we sent you, at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
He is the everyman when it comes to what he writes, his columns, and who he writes for. Again, GallerySports.com. I noticed they followed me on Twitter today. I think it's because of our segment with the Hall of Famer. John, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Well, we'll start with the Texans. I know you cover more than that, but I always get your feedback on them. Lost to Denver 16-9 or whatever the score. Very low-scoring game.
Davis Mills, their quarterback that everybody had such high hopes for. First game against the Colts, 2020 tied, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 98.4 rating. Then he stunk it up at Denver, had the 3rd lowest rating of his career. No interceptions, but no touchdowns. Only got in the red zone once. In his defense, he threw what should have been a touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks, who usually has sure hands, and he dropped it. Another time they had a chance to score. Laramie Tunsil had a penalty, so they're still struggling. They tied the Colts. The defense played really well. Now, you go to Denver and you hold Russell Wilson to 1 touchdown and you totally discombobulate their offense and you neutralize defensive end Bradley Chubb, you ought to win the game. But right now they got problems on their offense, and they go to Chicago. Chicago's as bad as they are.
John, the division, though, I mean, the Jaguars are in first place after shutting out the Colts. What's going on in that division?
It's awful. Texans are half game out of first place. So are the Colts. Titans are in last place. What it means is if the Colts or Titans rebound from terrible starts, or if the Jaguars, who are 1-1 after shutting out the Colts 24-0, win 7 or 8 games, they could win the division. We were joking today on one of my shows on Outkick.com about how you can win 7 games and win this division because they're so bad right now. And the Titans, it's hard to believe it, the Titans had home field advantage in the AFC playoffs last year, and Ryan Tannehill was terrible, and he's been terrible so far this season. And then Buffalo right now, Buffalo's going to Miami. You know, Buffalo's supposed to be unbeaten. Buffalo's supposed to be blowing people out. But the Dolphins, what a story.
Wow.
What a story it's going to be if they were to upset the Bills. Tua Tagovailoa, who they didn't want. They did everything they could last year to get Deshaun Watson, even had a deal worked out, 3 1s, a 3 and a 5 that fell apart before the November 2nd trade deadline because the owner wanted the 22 civil suits to be settled. So now they got stuck with Tua, and he knew everybody wanted Justin Herbert, even though they took Tua above him. I was happy with it. Class act, always has been. His only issue has been he's hurt every year. You'd like to see him stay healthy. If he does with those receivers, their offense is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was insane. It was the weekend of crazy comebacks. And the Bengals almost had one against Dallas, but the Miami won. And who was the other one that Cleveland blew a lead?
The Jets.
The Jets.
The
and
Jets.
the Cardinals.
Joe Flacco, 4 touchdown passes. The Cardinals came back from dead, engineered by Kyler Murray. Just a miraculous comeback. But the biggest one was Flacco. Flacco was awful in the first game against Baltimore, and they couldn't even score more than field goals. And then he throws 4 touchdown passes and engineers 2 touchdowns right at the end. Everything that had to go wrong for the Browns did. They missed an extra point. Then Nick Chubb should have gone down outside the end zone. Instead, he scored, gave him another chance. He said he lost the game. He didn't lose the game. Coach should have told him to go down, or don't even hand him the ball. Tell the quarterback to kneel it.
John, the Chargers and Chiefs was a great game last Monday night Thursday night. Justin Herbert got hurt, but was that game kind of more evidence that while the Chargers are getting better, the Chiefs still kind of own that division?
I think it's pretty clear the Chiefs own that division. Doesn't matter who they have at wide receiver, as long as they have Andy Reid calling the plays and Patrick Mahomes executing those plays. They're as good as any team. It would be a great AFC championship game if the Chiefs went to Buffalo this season after the Bills didn't get the ball in overtime last year, and the Chiefs won one of the greatest playoff games in history. Even though there's a lot of good teams in the AFC, boy, those two are, to me, heads and shoulders above each other, and you just hope one of them doesn't get derailed because of injuries.
Yeah, that looks like a collision course, yeah.
John, how scrappy was that effort by Cooper Rush and the Cowboys?
It's so funny. Cooper Rush's situation reminded me of Romo, who was sacked for 3 years, then Jason Garrett when he started 2-0. I don't think anybody suspected it. Most people thought the Bengals would bounce back. I didn't have high expectations for the Bengals because usually the Super Bowl loser falters. Don't know why that is. Should be the hungriest team in the league. Micah Parsons is the best pass rusher in the NFL. If the NFL Defensive Player of the Year vote was taken now, he would win it. And after the season, if he stays healthy, he's probably going to win it. And I always love success stories. And he was one, Rush. The problem is he was overshadowed by all these incredible comebacks.
Yeah, he was. You've seen him, the great defensive players that just disrupt people, that make quarterbacks and offensive coordinators fear for their life and not sleep during the week. How good and where do you see right now Micah Parsons and his trajectory?
Now, I'm just saying this right now. I'm not saying for the rest of the season or next year, but when I see him line up, he reminds me of Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence Taylor wasn't LT right off the bat, but it was pretty obvious he was great. Bum Phillips bypassed him in the draft to take running back George Rogers, and George Rogers was so stupid on a check he wrote when it put what it was for. He put cocaine, and then he ended up getting suspended. And Taylor, of course, is one of the 2 greatest defensive players I've ever seen, along with Reggie White. And Micah Parsons moves around. But I tell you what, if Dan Quinn drops him into coverage one more time, people ought to throw up in their mouths. When he does something like that, the offense is like, whew, have him get the quarterback every single time.
John, which is worse, writing cocaine on a check or Jerry Springer when he was mayor of Cincinnati paying a hooker with the city check?
Did he put it on his checkbook? Did he write what it was for, Hooker? I think it was. I think it was worse for Jerry Springer because he should have been smarter about that.
Oh my God, I'd never heard that story. You honestly do you wish
there drug dealers that take checks?
Yeah, that was just. John, do you ever wish sometimes you could write a book just through your mind? You realize how many great books you could write just if you could close your eyes and just remember all the stories you know?
I know a lot of stories in my radio station. The program director and the head of advertising, we went to lunch last week, and the head of advertising is from Cleveland. He said, "You got any Brown stories?" So 30 minutes later, I said, "I got more, depending on how much time you got." I have compiled so many stories, and then the program director says, "You know what? We should do a podcast with you telling your stories." I said, "I always do. I'm already doing 3 a week." By the way, it's called Utopia. And I hope people check it out. I do 3 a week with Sean Pendergast, one of my morning hosts here. But I told him, if you want me to do another one, it's going to cost you a little more money.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I want to be your agent as well.
I love telling those stories. I got Baylor stories. I got Baylor football, Baylor basketball, a few Baylor baseball stories I can remember. A lot of good Baylor stories.
John,
In fact, excuse me, Craig, I remember one time there was a great Baylor basketball player. This was a long time ago, and I'm not going to say who it is because he's been honored by Baylor. And this was decades ago. And they saw him in the summer, and they asked him what he was doing. He said he had a summer job. "Well, really, what are you doing?" "I'm working at Baylor Stadium." "What's your job?" "Making sure there's no seaweed in the stadium." He did a great job of that.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. John, any initial thoughts on the Pro Football Hall of Fame ballot that was released today, 2023 nominees?
Oh, my God, Craig. There's 125 on that list until we get it down to 25 and cut it to 15 finalists. And I will say this. Joe Thomas, Darrelle Revis, and I think DeMarcus Ware are the 3 locks to me. I'll be presenting Andre Johnson again in his first year of eligibility. Like DeMarcus Ware, he made cut from 15 to 10, but not to 5 because we didn't make any first-year guys. We didn't put them in because we wanted to take care of people who've been waiting a long time. But I think those 3 are locks because they're 3 of the greatest in history.
All right.
I have one quick follow-up. I know he won't first ballot, and I know it's hard to get punters in, but will Shane Leckler ever have a legit shot?
I believe he will. Maybe I won't because he played it with the Raiders longer. But I'll say this. There's only 2 punters on the NFL's 100-year anniversary team. Ray Guy, who's in the Hall of Fame, Shane Leckler, who's in his first year of eligibility. I will do everything I can to help Shane, who was voted in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, I think 3 years ago, if I can get Andre Johnson in there first.
All right. Okay. There you go. There you go. Baylor with the win. They were supposed to win. They did. They handled business. It still seems like it's kind of at times a struggle for them on offense, and now they're about to go back in on the road where they've struggled. Iowa State coming up on Saturday, John.
I watched the game, and I'm wondering, Baylor's always had a lot of really good receivers for a long time, going back to when Art Browse got there and started recruiting them and then making use of them. And Shapin is struggling throwing the ball down the field, and I wonder how much is it his receivers not getting separation, how much of it is Shapin. But I tell you what I want to see more of from Jeff Grimes, and that's Reese. That kid is a touchdown waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. I know he's 170 pounds, and you got to be careful. But, man, I would give him the ball in space. I'd let him run through the tackles. Behind that veteran offensive line, I'd try to control the clock to keep my defense fresh. One of the things I like about Baylor right now are the offensive and defensive lines. And it wasn't too long ago when they struggled in both areas and got beat up bad. And now they do the beating.
Yeah, the Pro Football Focus had them ranked as the top, among the I guess, number 3 offensive line after a couple of weeks of the college football season. And, you know, he kind of got on them a little bit after Brigham Young, but they were obviously in a dogfight with the Cougars, who then got smoked by Oregon.
I was stunned about that. I thought, sure, after as well as BYU played against Baylor. They're going to go up and beat Oregon. And then, of course, Oregon beat the heck out of them. I feel like if BYU were in the Big 12 this year, they had a good chance to win it. University of Houston, not so much.
All right, John, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Remember, guys, they come.
They come. GallerySports.com, 610 Sports Radio, online, writes, Hall of Fame writer, Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, and the top 5 is next. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. The Pepperoni Magnifico. There was somebody that was, what was the deal? I was in some kind of a text chain where somebody was not doing well in the hospital, and they asked him, what can we bring you? Like, I think most people were talking to like books or magazines or maybe even something to keep him occupied. And one of the things he said in the text was, like different type of food. And one of them was Pepperoni Magnifico from Marco's Pizza. Pepperoni Magnifico, you can go online, marcos.com, and order now. Use the code PEPMAG. It's $9.99 if you do it online. You can also order online the one-topping large pizza for $8.99 a piece at $8.99 to go. That's the code. $3 off large specialty pizzas. Medium one-topping pizzas, $7.99 each. And they have the all-new cauliflower crust. Well, yep, they have that available at marcos.com. Pizza bowls, wings, and more. Sandwiches, soft drinks. Marco's Pizza with 5 locations in the Waco area. Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Hewitt, and Woodway. And go online to order at marcos.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 Herm Edwards replacements. Now, I've never seen, I try to go through and read what experts are saying and kind of aggregate my list. And 2 or 3 of these are kind of obvious right off the bat for me. But, going and seeing what fits, what you do some research, who, has ties there or whatever. Well, because of Ray Anderson and his non-AD background, I've seen 10 articles, and while there's some obvious ones that overlap, it could not have been more different all over the place.
And he may not be the one who's hired.
Exactly. That's why I think
shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Yeah. Yeah. So number 5, from the assistant category, Jeff Grimes at Baylor. Was recruiting in the West at BYU. Running the wide zone might not be a bad idea to get them straight on offense and kind of recruit the guys that you need. I think that Jeff Grimes is not long for being an assistant coach, whether it's this year, next year, or soon. I think he's got head coach vibes all over him, and it wouldn't surprise me to see, especially if Baylor has another really good year on offense eventually, that his name comes up in a lot of searches, and Arizona State might be a good one for him.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much this year plays into kind of the feeling around him. I think if he was going to strike while the iron was hot, there wasn't a hotter time than last year, right as the season was wrapping up. But obviously there was already a lot of hires that were made and just a lot of big pieces that were moving that he didn't technically qualify for. But yeah, I mean, if you were to start a list at the beginning of the year, he'd be a guy that you'd certainly have circled as a guy to watch, a watch list type of ascension. So yeah, I could see him, taking this job. I think that's probably, they're not going to get like Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley or anything like that. That's not happening. So it's going to have to be somebody probably like a Jeff Grimes or I'm sure, some of the others that you mentioned here.
Okay. Number 4, Brian Harsin of Auburn. He's going to get fired there, we pretty much think, because of the way things work there and the fact that his AD's gone and everything's soured. We talked about that in the heat meter yesterday. But he was very successful at Boise State. The guy, he was successful where he's been. He's probably a head coach in college football, just not at Auburn. Arizona State is probably more in the Boise State ballpark than Auburn is. So I could see this working.
Yeah, it's interesting. It depends on how you have to sell it to your boosters and donors. And those are the ones that pay the money, right?
Yeah. What I would do, and I'm not trying to knock Auburn's boosters, if I was trying to sell it to them, be like, listen, those people are crazy.
No,
you're not crazy.
They are. And most of the people will know, and
Do you have to sell it to your boosters? You mean the reason why Brian Harsin's in the situation that he's in? Yeah, I mean, there's probably something to do with boosters, at Auburn. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Considering that we've heard, plenty about that. But, yeah, I mean, going out closer to the West, I suppose, is, something that makes a lot of sense for him.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say that to a G5 to a Power 5 jump, Boise State to Arizona State makes more sense to me than Boise State to Auburn, who won a national championship in the last 15 years, and those people still think it's 1 year after that.
Yeah, I mean,
always will.
Yeah,
I do think though there is something to he coached on the West, out in the West, and that's what Arizona State is very much a part of right now until they leave the Pac-12. So I mean, he would have familiar recruiting territory and ties out there potentially, but yeah, I think it's probably more his speed than the speed of the SEC, so to speak, or at least the speed at Auburn.
He knows the land. He knows the land.
I'll throw another assistant out there. Young guy on the rise, Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator. He's a young-ish guy. But young guy on the rise, Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, has moved that offense to a couple different phases and shows some adaptability. And he's going to get some looks. If they want to go this route, I think he could do much worse than Casey Dunn. Done a good job to me. Done a really good job with Spencer Sanders, considering that he might still be a bit of a turnover machine, but he's a lot more fun to watch now and a lot more trustworthy, and that's on Casey Dunn.
Playing with tremendous confidence right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen his name kind of pop up here and there. Certainly not one of the initial ones that come to mind, but I don't think the Arizona State job would necessarily will be somebody that automatically comes to mind. I mean, I'm really curious what they do and kind of who they target, because there's a lot of different directions this could go. The only direction it won't go is, again, to like a Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly type of move, because only so many schools can pull that off. But yeah, they could go Casey Dunn, they could go Brian Harsin. I mean, it's really anybody's best guess at this point. So yeah, he's doing a good job so far. I mean, Spencer Sanders is a heck of a talent, and we'll see. It's still so early, but yeah, so far great marks for that offense.
Yeah. Number 2, Charles Huff for Marshall. If you're going to go the FBS route, here's a guy who is shooting up the charts, just had that big win over Notre Dame, and people think very, very highly of him and could come in and maybe create some juice in Phoenix, which I think that job is kind of a sleeping giant because it's in a great spot. It's a great campus. You can go to California, you can go to Texas, you can go to a lot of places and get recruits, and all you need is somebody to sell it, not to mention the fact that it's, it's not exactly Stanford. I mean, so you don't have to, have a lot of – you can get guys in, and they can have productive careers. I don't know.
Marshall, it was something we didn't bring up. They lost to Bowling Green.
I was going to say, I mean, that would have been better probably a week ago, because I think some of that air got let out of the tires when he turned right around and got beaten overtime by Bowling Green. But, I mean, yeah, he's a guy that you certainly have to at least think about. And, if you would have said his name a week ago, then it would have been like, oh, yeah, Charles Huff, the coach at Marshall. He's obviously got the Bama ties. So yeah, he's a good coach, but I do think a lot of the steam got let out after that follow-up loss.
I tossed up between him and Blake Anderson, but I ultimately went with him on this spot. At number 1, Todd Monken at Georgia. He's been a head coach before, did a good job at UAB, and has done a great job with the offense at Georgia. Would stand to me that he's probably about to be a head coach again. He comes with national championship pedigree now, and if Arizona State wants to have that kind of credibility, go get a guy who's from the most recent national champion, or at least one of the two. We'll see what happens with Georgia this year, but again, that offense at Georgia's humming. He's made something really special out of Stetson Bennett. He and Kirby Smart are recruiting really well on that side of the ball. So, heck.
Yeah, you go to coordinators at at Georgia and Alabama, right? Yeah. That's where you go find them.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien, and you almost
just
hear
had
his
a former
name.
NFL head coach.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You normally hear him. You've heard, his name's going to be attached, but there's just something there that seems to be missing. Although he did a remarkable job at Penn State, was pretty good with the Texans, and eventually just the trades that they made were terrible.
Which is why when I see Matt Rule mentioned for jobs like this, he doesn't fit Arizona State to me. Nebraska, he fits. Arizona State, not to me.
No, I think he's going bigger and pursuing, like a Nebraska or, something else that might open up. I mean, I can't say that he said that, but that's what I presume. And I think that's what a lot of people presume is, he's far more likely for a Nebraska than he would be for an Arizona State. And, I don't think you're going back-to-back NFL head coaches. When we've already done that, and there's a reason why you're moving on. I mean, Matt Rule's far more of a sure thing because he's, coached recently in college football and been successful. So I know he will be a hot name, but there's some others that were mentioned, I think, throughout, like Byron Leftwich I saw mentioned, Kalani Sitake, is a name that automatically pops up. I'm not sure if that he would leave BYU for Arizona State, but the one that I found the most interesting was Tom Herman. That's a name that I think is going to be really intriguing is the carousel gets underway with however many jobs open up. I mean, he's not in a position where he's like big dog in the NFL right now. I mean, he's ripe for coming back to college. And I think a lot of people now look at Texas and go, wait a second, did they kind of get rid of him too quickly? Like, you know, did he actually do a good job and we just were really impatient? I know there were certain things that, you know, there were other reasons than just win losses, but he wasn't awful at Texas by any stretch. And so, yeah, I think he's certainly a guy that will be interesting to see as well.
Also on the chat room mentioned Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen also, he's pretty good on television, by the way. I don't think Dan Mullen wants to recruit anymore. So I don't think, you know, it's not just he doesn't want to recruit against Georgia anymore. I don't think he really wants to do that anymore because the game has changed. And I think if Dan Mullen gets back into coaching, he'll go be a QB coach and probably a damn good one in the NFL. But I don't think he wants to recruit anymore.
I did see him on TV. I didn't have the sound up, but I saw him. I didn't get a chance to listen to much of what he was saying. All right. Thank you. Jack is on his way to go cover other things as he does as far as Baylor and Levi. Jacob, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Emery remotely. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to all of our amazing sponsors. Those of you in the chat room, the text line, we appreciate all of you. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, 10:30 tonight on the CW channel. Don't forget Sports Tonight.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.